Chapter 2654. In the early days, the Holy Lady sect was suppressed many times and was almost wiped out. Later, a powerful warrior emerged and became the second most powerful warrior in the endless ruins of gods. Back then, there was a warrior who was recognized as the most powerful warrior in the entire endless ruins of gods. Nobody could compete with him, including the master of the Holy Lady sect. That warrior was the master of the Celestial Emperor sect. For a million years, the Celestial Emperor sect had been the most powerful sect in the endless ruins of gods. No other forces could shake their position. Nobody in the endless ruins of gods dared to offend the disciples of this sect. That being said, the rules of this sect were good. Their disciples rarely stirred up trouble or committed crimes. This sect was recognized as a decent sect. The Blood Emperor's idea was clear and feasible. As long as Luli could join the Celestial Emperor sect and make a name for himself, marrying two external disciples of the Holy Lady sect wouldn't be difficult. The Holy Lady sect would hope to make friends with the future leaders of the Celestial Emperor sect, which was a good thing for the Holy Lady sect. However, was it that easy to join the Celestial Emperor sect? Was it that easy to make a name for oneself? Who wouldn't want to join the most powerful sect in the endless ruins of gods? Those that could join the Celestial Emperor sect were all top talents. It was too difficult to stand out when a group of Heaven's Pridelings were competing inside. Was there any other way for Luli? He thought about it for an afternoon and realized that there was no other way. He could not compete with the Holy Lady sect on his own, not even if he reached the Emperor realm. Other sects and the Holy Lady sect could not compete either. He had no other choice but to join the Celestial Emperor sect. I must join the Celestial Emperor sect and make a name for myself. I must find a way back, marry the two girls, and go back. Luli's eyes were filled with determination. Now that he had made up his mind and found the right direction, he must work hard to move forward. The Celestial Emperor dynasty is a bit far away. Luli took out the map to check. This place was dozens of dynasties away from the Celestial Emperor dynasty. That was a long distance. The chilly winter continent and the flying fire continent were probably as far apart. If he were to fly, he didn't know how long it would take. Luli remembered. According to the information given by the waiters, there were 3 ways to get there. The first was to fly. The second was to ride on flying beasts. This was the most common way. Of course, it would take a long time. Of course, no matter how fast the flying beasts were. The third method was to open a domain gate. This method was faster, but the cost was higher. Flying was out of the question. Riding on flying beasts would take too long unless they were riding top-level beasts that could be as fast as those of the Emperor realm. Luli could not afford to wait. Opening a realm gate was even more troublesome because it required precious materials. Moreover, not just anyone could open a realm gate, so they needed to find a large clan. Luli couldn't go to the big families every time he went. Even if he had divine stones, the great clans might not be willing to earn them. I can only go and find someone. Luli got up and walked outside. If he couldn't find a way on the surface, then he would have to go to the black market. Any city would have a black market. Where there was light, there would definitely be darkness. He walked around the city and locked onto a castle. The castle seemed fine on the surface, but Luli noticed that there were a lot of people going in and out. There was clearly something wrong. He strode in and found 2 doors inside. There were 2 Fifth Tribulation warriors standing on the door on the left. Seeing him coming over, one of them stopped him and said, "Sir, please show your token." "No." Luli shrugged and said, "But I have a lot of divine stones and want to do business with you." "Oh," one of the guards said in disbelief. "Can you show us a bit? Not everyone can go in here." Buzzing, Luli took out the relic iron and asked, "Is this enough? Holy weapon fragment?" The guard took a look and nodded reluctantly. "Okay, you can go in, but don't do anything rash. Otherwise, the consequences will be serious. Do you understand?" "I understand. I'm not here to court death." Luli shrugged and walked in. After a glare, he came to an underground plaza. This was indeed the black market. Luli walked around for a while and found many treasures. Alien race beauties were on sale. Luli even saw some fragments of holy weapon, but they were sold at a high price of 40 million divine stones. Luli was not here to buy treasures. He walked into a side chamber where an old man was sitting. Seeing Luli coming in, the old man greeted him with a smile. "Sir, do you have any special needs?" "Yes." Luli didn't hide anything. He came straight to the point. "I want to go somewhere fast. Do you have any way to help me?" "Oh, where do you want to go?" The old man took out a map with a smile. Luli pointed to a place on a map and said, "I want to go there." The place Luli was pointing to was not the Celestial Emperor, but the Forrester dynasty in the east. Once he arrived at the Forrester dynasty, the Celestial Emperor would be closer. It would only take him half a month to fly there. The Forrester dynasty? The old man frowned and said, "That is a bit far. This is going to be difficult." The old man said it was difficult, but he didn't say it was impossible. Luli's eyes glowed and said, "Sir, do you have a way? The price is negotiable." "The price is hard to say," the old man said with a bitter smile. "I can help you contact the fastest flying beasts, and there will be powerful warriors to protect you. But the price is a bit high." "How much?" Luli asked with a frown. The old man reached out one finger. Luli asked in a deep voice, 10 billion. The old man shook his head. Luli asked again, 100 billion? The old man still shook his head. Luli's mind was weighed down. 1 trillion. Yes. The old man answered with certainty, "This is the lowest price. You must know that it is so far away, and it is not safe on the way. The journey will take at least 3 years. Don't you think it will cost that much to have a powerful warrior of the Emperor realm escort you?" Luli said nothing. The old man had a point. Many places in the boundless ruins were dangerous, and there were many powerful beasts. Without the protection of a powerful warrior, it would be impossible to have a safe journey. "Why should I believe you?" Luli asked a practical question. "What if you cheat me after I give you the stones? What if you leave me behind on the way?" "Uh-huh." The old man smiled with pride and said, "We, the cabinet of heaven will not do such things. You can go out and ask about the reputation of the cabinet of heaven will, and then you can come back and talk about this business with me." "Okay." Luli said goodbye and left. Then he began to ask around. Luli was relieved after he found some people to gather information. The cabinet of heaven was not just powerful. It was one of the 18 major sects and a family with a history of over 1,000,000 years. A family like this would not cheat him of his stones. 3 years. Luli was worried. It would take him 3 years on the way. How long would it take for him to make a name for himself in the Heaven Emperor sect? How long would it take for him to find the way back? Even if everything went well, how long would it take for him to go back? If the third heaven could not handle it, or if the Asmodean Lord from the Asmodean Abyss came, would everyone be dead by the time they got back? What was the point of going back then? I am thinking too far ahead. Chapter 2655. Half a month later, Luli left the city. He took a flying beast to a nearby city. He had to change to a faster beast to go to the Glacial Dynasty. He paid 1 trillion divine stones, which he did not have on him. He sold many treasures, including that piece of relic. The holy weapon fragment was not of great significance to him now. He didn't have many treasures to sell. Since the fragment was valuable, naturally, he chose to sell it. Sitting cross-legged on the beast's back was no different from sitting on a battleship. There were divine runes on the beast's back, and a barrier of light enveloped everyone. The flying beast's flight was very stable, and it felt no different from sitting in a room. 10 days later, he arrived at a large city. This city was the 3rd largest city in the empire. It could be considered a true giant city. There were tens of thousands of ferocious beasts circling above the city. Luli sensed that there were dozens of ferocious beasts that were as powerful as lords. The size of the beast was especially huge. The largest beast was thousands of feet long, like a huge castle. Luli stayed in the city for 3 days. He collected some information, most of which were about the Holy Lady sect and the Heaven Emperor sect. The Holy Lady sect heard that the Holy Lady sect kidnapped a young lady from a major family, which enraged the family. The family sent someone to negotiate with the Holy Lady sect, but the Holy Lady sect paid no attention. They gave the family an emperor artifact and sent them away. There was no special information about the Heaven Emperor sect. This sect had been keeping a low profile. Usually, they would not make trouble unless they were provoked. The rules of the sect were strict. Their disciples would not mess around. 3 days later, Luli was taken to a super huge beast with over 1,000 people. They all found a place to sit. The beast was flat and spacious. Thousands of people could sit on it easily. The beast was as strong as a lord. It had the head of a dragon, but the body of a koan. It had 4 legs, a long tail, and 4 wings. It was fast. I think it can be as fast as an Emperor Realm warrior. Luli saw the beast flapping its wings and dashing away like an arrow. The mountain was moving backward. Soon, the city was out of sight. Luli exclaimed to himself, "That brown-haired old man should be a quasi-emperor." Luli glanced at an old man sitting at the front with his legs crossed. The old man was wearing an average Taoist robe, and his hair was draped behind his head. He seemed to be a down-and-out old Taoist. He didn't give off any energy, but Luli could tell that the 2 old men sitting behind him were at the Lord Realm. This man might be at the Quasi-Emperor Realm. There were not many guards on the ferocious beast. There was only 1 Quasi-Emperor, 2 overlords, and 10 Fifth Tribulation experts. The rest of them were probably guests who rode on flying beasts, sitting together in 2s and 3s. Some were chatting in low voices, some were admiring the scenery around them, and some were cultivating with their eyes closed. There were also a few people who fell asleep on the ground. They were very careless. Luli sat in a corner with his legs crossed. After a while, he felt bored and closed his eyes to cultivate. This journey would not only take 2 days, but 3 years. For some old warriors, 3 years might be a blink of an eye. But for Luli, it was a long time. He decided to cultivate for 3 years. First, he would consume elixirs to strengthen his body. Second, he would consume elixirs to nurture his soul, cultivate divine energy, and stabilize his foundation. Third, he would study the laws, fundamental principles, and secret skills. He had recorded many marks of Taoist principles in the Heaven Path realm. He could figure out a way to study them. Time flew by while he was cultivating. Luli didn't even know how much time had passed when he was alarmed by a shocking roar. Not only him, everyone was alarmed. Many people revealed looks of shock because that roar was too terrifying, shaking the heavens and earth. The chi and blood of the ferocious beast was too powerful, and many people felt that they were suppressed to the point where they couldn't move. Everyone checked with psychic power at once. Luli was taken aback by what he saw. A mountain below them burst open. Following that, a black-armored monster rushed up, roaring. The monster looked like a dinosaur, but it had a human face. Its eyes were blood red, its mouth was filled with fangs, and its spirit was so strong that Luli and the others felt their hearts tremble. 6th rank beast. That must be a human-faced centipede beast. Yes, it is a human-faced centipede beast. Several people shouted in surprise, but they did not panic. Many people looked at the 3 sitting in front of them. They were 3 lords. It should not be difficult for them to suppress a 6th rank beast. The 3 lords didn't move. They didn't even open their eyes. Luli and the others were nervous. What were they doing? The beast was about to make its way up. Roar, roar, the human-faced centipede beast rushed up, roaring. From its mouth came out black flames. The air seemed to be on fire. Even though Luli and the others were protected by shields, they still felt the heat. Whoosh! At this moment, the brown-haired old man at the very front moved. He stretched out a hand and flicked his middle finger. A weak stream of light shot out from his palm and disappeared in a flash, entering the body of the beast that was charging at them. Boom! The ferocious beast that everyone felt was invincible suddenly exploded. Pieces of flesh and blood flew around in the air. Blood spilled all over the sky. Everyone's vision was dyed red. Flicking of fingers, Luli trembled. He stared at the old man in disbelief. The beast was as strong as a lord. The old man killed the beast with a flick of his finger. What kind of amazing skill was this? Was he at the Emperor realm? It's not the Overlord tier. The Blood Evil Emperor said, "This man is only an Emperor realm of quasi-emperor, but he is not far from that." The fundamental principle he learned is interesting. Just now, there was a beast god pellet in the beast. The fundamental principle he released detonated the energy in the beast god pellet and made the beast explode. It is the same as someone making your pellet explode. Don't think too highly of him. He has only mastered the beast's weakness. I see. Luli nodded. Theoretically speaking, a quasi-emperor should not be so powerful. Granted, the brown-haired old man could kill beasts as well, but he could not do it so easily. It was understandable that the brown-haired old man had mastered the beast's weakness. All hail Lord Gu. Lord Gu killed a 6th-rank beast with a flick of his fingers. This is shocking. He will become a legend if people know about it. With Lord Gu protecting us, this trip will definitely be smooth sailing. There won't be any problems. Chapter 2656. Dragon Rocky Mountain. Luli noticed that many people nearby looked uneasy. He took out the map out of curiosity and found that the Dragonstone Mountain range was very long. It was between 2 dynasties. From the south to the north, the Dragonstone Mountain range ran through 3 dynasties like a natural moat. Can't we go around it? Luli pointed to the map and asked a middle-aged warrior nearby. It was true that the Dragon Rocky Mountain was long, but it was not impossible to go around it. It would only take them a month at most. No, the middle-aged warrior shook his head and said, several dynasties are fighting over there. If we go around it, we will be more likely to run into trouble. This is the fastest and the safest route. Also, the Dragon Rocky Mountain is not a place where ferocious beasts run amok. The Heavenwell Pavilion often flies ferocious beasts over. They have a safe and suitable route. Oh, Luli didn't ask any more questions. The Dragon Rocky Mountain was still far away from here. It would take them at least a year to arrive. It was pointless for him to ask more questions now. Those riding on the beasts were from the endless ruins of divinity. They knew the situation of the endless ruins better than Luli. If they dared to take the risk, what was there for Luli to be afraid of? Luli didn't care about anything else. He closed his eyes and continued to cultivate. He consumed the elixirs, but they were all average ones. Nobody paid attention to him. The people on the back of the dire beast quickly quieted down. Some of them continued to cultivate, some slept, and some chatted. As for that Lord Gu, he had closed his eyes to cultivate a long time ago. He had no intention to communicate with the others. Time flew by. The journey was peaceful except for the occasional attacks from some ferocious beasts. Lord Gu never took any actions. It was the other 2 lords who killed the ferocious beasts one by one. Along the way, some went down and some came up. Basically, there were about 1,000 people on the beasts. The escorts never changed. It was always Lord Gu, the other 2 lords, and the 10 warriors of the 5th Tribulation. The 10 warriors of the 5th Tribulation were more like running errands. The main escorts were Lord Gu and the other 2 lords. Up ahead is the capital of the Xiong dynasty. We will stay here for 5 days. If you want to go down and buy something or have fun, you can go down. However, you must return after 5 days, otherwise we will not care and will leave on time. 7 months later, Luli woke up with a start. This was a direct message from a lord. Luli decided to go. He did not want to have fun, rest, or buy materials. He wanted to gather some information and see if there was any news about Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong. The ferocious beast stopped in front of a magnificent city, and a group of soldiers flew up. A person from the Heavenswell Pavilion went down to negotiate. After a while, that person returned and told everyone that they could go down. Lord Gu flew down with the 2 overlords. Many others had gone down as well. Luli flew down with the rest of the group. He first found an inn to stay in and asked the waiter. Naturally, he could not find out anything. He thought about it and went to the Heavenwell Pavilion branch to find out more information. The Heavenswell Pavilion was the largest black market merchant in the endless divine ruins. They did all kinds of business, including intelligence. That being said, the Heavenswell Pavilion was only focused on business. They never got involved in disputes between forces. Luli took out the portraits of Xiang Linglong and Lu Ling, which indicated that they might have been taken away by the Holy Lady sect. He asked the Heavenswell Pavilion to help him find out more. The branch of the Heavenswell Pavilion accepted the request, but the price was not cheap. It cost Luli 300 billion divine stones. They said that they could not find out anything in a short time, and that it would take time. They needed the Holy Lady Sect branch to gather information and then send it back. Luli went back to the tavern and slept for 3 days. On the 5th day, he went to the Heavenswell Pavilion branch. They said they had not sent back any information and told Luli to ride on the ferocious beasts. They had branches along the way. When they found something, they would send someone to inform Luli directly. Luli went back to the ferocious beasts. Not long afterward, Lord Gu and the others came back. The ferocious beasts moved on. Luli continued to cultivate. After all, the Heavenswell Pavilion would send back information in time. Soon, more than half a month had passed. Today, the ferocious beasts stopped at a small city. Luli didn't stop cultivating. However, an hour later, he was woken up by someone. The Heavenswell Pavilion had sent him a message. A man handed a jade slip to Luli and said, "Lord, this is the thing you asked for. My superior told me to send it to you. Please take a look and see if there is anything wrong." Luli was only at the peak of the 4th tribulation. This man was a warrior of the 5th tribulation, and yet he called Luli Lord and addressed him with respect. Luli had to admit that the Heavenswell Pavilion was quite nice. Luli took a look and waved his hand. "Okay, it's okay. Thank your Lord for me." The man cupped his fists and left. Luli opened the jade slip again and read it carefully. There was not much information, but it was useful. It was proof that Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong were at the Holy Lady Sect, and they had become external disciples. The news had been made public, and it was easy to find out. That was to say, any force could get the information without the Heavenswell Pavilion's help. Luli's 300 billion divine stones were wasted. Of course, the Heavenswell Pavilion sent another piece of information. Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong were talented. They were valued by the Holy Lady Sect as soon as they went there. The external disciples were divided into 3 grades. The 2 were rated as A, B, and C as soon as they arrived. Being rated as A meant that not only would they have a high status in the external disciples, they would also have access to many resources, and it would be easier for them to become internal disciples. Once they became internal disciples, it would be like a carp leaping through the dragon's gate and becoming a young lady at the top of the endless ruins of divinity. Internal disciples of the Holy Lady Sect could all become powerful warriors, one of the most influential figures in the endless ruins of divinity, if nothing went wrong and they died prematurely. As a matter of fact, the first piece of information was more meaningful to Luli. Luli had known that Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong were talented. He also knew that they would not join the internal disciples unless the powerful warriors of the Holy Lady Sect erased their memories. The information indicated 3 things. First, they were still alive. Second, they were in the Holy Lady Sect. Third, they were living a good life. At the very least, their lives were not in danger and nobody would bully them. This is enough. Luli felt the 300 billion divine stones were well spent. He had gotten the information he wanted. The rest was up to him. He had to find a way to join the Heaven Emperor sect and make a name for himself. He had to figure out a way to marry the 2 so that he could save them from the Holy Lady sect. 20 years. Chapter 2657. Luli had been in closed-door cultivation for a year without any incident. He had lost track of time. Lord Gu would take care of anything. What was there to worry about with his limited abilities? Ahead of them was the Dragon Rocky Mountain. Luli had no idea that many people on the flying beasts were getting nervous. The 2 lords were checking with psychic power along the way. Luli had been studying the soul skill in the land of illusion. He had made some progress during the year. The soul skill should be powerful. It was an offensive skill, and Luli was interested in it. The mountains of the Dragon Rocky Mountain were strange. The stones here were all like dragon scales, and they were very hard. There were no flowers or trees here, only bare red stones. Looking down from the sky, it was as if there were dragons crouching down there. There were many caves in the Dragon Rocky Mountain, and they were all huge ones. Many beasts were hiding in the caves. This place had always been a paradise for beasts. Many powerful beasts would gather here. It was said that the reason why there were so many powerful beasts here was because there was a holy dragon spring under the caves. The beasts could grow stronger by drinking the holy dragon spring. Therefore, this place had been attracting many beasts to gather here. The beasts would grow stronger after drinking the holy dragon spring. Occasionally, there would be beast upheaval. The beasts would come out from the underground and kill each other in a frenzy. No one could explain why such a thing had happened. It was nighttime when the flying beasts arrived at the Dragon Rocky Mountain. The 12 blood moons were in the sky, lighting up the land. The cold light spread over the land, reflecting the red glow, which made the land even more strange and mysterious. The 12 blood moons had no effect on Luli. The shield on the flying beasts had isolated the demonic energy of the moons. Otherwise, Luli and the others wouldn't even need to cultivate. They would be fighting each other at midnight. The endless ruins of gods had some ways to deal with the demonic energy of the moons. Many forces knew how to set up professional runes to resist the demonic energy of the moons. Luli and the others didn't feel anything on the back of the flying beasts. Somehow, the flying beast had no effect on the moons. However, the beast became agitated as it flew into the Dragon Rocky Mountain. It would look down from time to time as if it was eager to go into the caves and drink the holy dragon spring. Take a detour and fly to the east. After flying for more than 2 hours, Lord Gu suddenly spoke. A fifth tribulation expert immediately controlled the ferocious beast to take a detour. Lord Gu had always been quietly investigating. He was sure that there was a powerful, vicious beast in front of them. Fly right. Lord Gu continued to give orders, and the flying, ferocious beasts kept changing directions. The martial artists on the ground waited for a while before relaxing slightly. It had been more than 2 hours since they had entered the Dragon Rocky mountain range, but they had not encountered a single powerful, ferocious beast. It looked like they would be able to cross this place without any mishaps. When riding on the Heavenly Wool Pavilion's flying, ferocious beasts, the Heavenly Wool Pavilion would warn them that the Dragon Rocky mountain range was very dangerous. If anything happened, they would not be responsible. However, other than here, the Heavenly Wool Pavilion would be responsible for anything that happened. The few empires near the Dragon Rocky mountain range had been fighting for the past few years. There was a lot of killing going on, and they didn't care about the Heavenly Wool Pavilion. Furthermore, the detour would take up an additional 3 to 6 months of time. The experts from the Heavenly Wool Pavilion were not happy about this. Of course, although there were many powerful, ferocious beasts in the Dragon Rocky mountain range, many flying, ferocious beasts would basically be safe as long as they chose a good route. Unless they encountered a rare beast tide, they could only blame it on their bad luck. Clearly, everyone's luck was pretty good. The journey was very peaceful. They didn't encounter a single ferocious beast the entire night, much less a beast tide. They had already crossed more than half of the Dragon Rocky mountain range. They just needed another 6 hours to fly out of the Dragon Rocky mountain range. The blood moon set, and the sky turned pitch black. It was almost dawn, and this was the darkest moment before dawn. The surroundings were silent. Other than the sound of the flying, ferocious beasts flapping their wings, there was no other sound. Everyone, our luck seems to be a little bad. At that moment, Lord Goose suddenly smiled bitterly and sighed. We might have encountered a rare beast tide in 100 years. What? There was an uproar within the light barrier. Countless people suddenly stood up and looked around in horror. Many people also used their spiritual perception to scan the surroundings. However, there was no movement in the surroundings. They couldn't even see a single ferocious beast, much less a beast tide. As a matter of fact, I already felt something was wrong when we were halfway there. Lord Goose stood up. A saber appeared in his hand as he explained, "It has been too peaceful along the way. We haven't run into a single powerful beast. I did sense something along the way, but those beasts are too quiet. Something must be wrong. We might be in big trouble. If something like this really happens, you must remember, scatter and run. We will go back to distract the beasts while you run out of the Dragon Rocky Mountain as fast as you can. As long as you can get out, you will be safe. If we can survive, we will take you on. If we die, wait outside the mountain. Someone from the heavens will come and pick you up. Boom! Right at that moment, a mountain in the distance suddenly exploded. Following that, a ray of golden light shot up to the sky. An earth-shattering roar came out, piercing through the sky. Luli came back to his senses. Out of instinct, he turned around. What he saw made his heart tremble. A huge golden ape rushed up to the sky, pounding its chest with its fists and roaring angrily. The fangs were golden as well, reflecting a cold glare. A surge of suffocating chi and energy spread out, violent and cruel. Luli and the others felt their souls were trembling. Boom! Another huge explosion occurred on the left, and a silver-white centipede with 10,000 legs rushed out. It spat out black smoke from its mouth, covering half the sky. Boom! A mountain behind them also burst out. A human-shaped beast with red fur and only one vertical eye roared into the sky. That roar was so deafening that Li and the others felt their eardrums bleed. "Run!" Lord Gu shouted. Then a surge of chi and energy spread out from him. The saber in his hand glowed, and a horrifying chi and energy came out. He shouted and took the initiative to run back with the other three. Buzzing. A warrior of the fifth tribulation put the flying beast into his interspatial ring. Then he waved his hand and said, "The beast upheaval is coming. Fly close to the ground and run for your lives. As long as we can get out of the Dragon Rocky Mountain, we can survive." Whoosh! The 10 warriors of the fifth tribulation took the lead and dashed down. Many others came to their senses and followed suit. Luli didn't know what had happened. He was stunned and stood on the spot. "Silly boy, what are you waiting for? Run with them. Your chi and energy are weak. It is best for you to run when you are in the crowd." Blood Evil Emperor's voice came. Luli released the heaven armor at once and rushed down. The 1,000 warriors were divided into more than a dozen teams. They knew very well that if all of them were to stay together, none of them would survive. Luli chose to go with a team in the middle. There was a powerful warrior of the Lord Realm in this team. At the very least, this team could give them a chance to escape. Bang, 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 bang. Chapter 2658. The chi and energy of Lord Gu and the other two were so strong that they attracted many ferocious beasts to them. The ferocious beasts here had no intelligence, but they could tell the strength of warriors. It was like how powerful human warriors would go after the stronger ones when faced with a group of ferocious beasts. They wouldn't bother to kill the weaker ones. It was the same with ferocious beasts. They wouldn't bother to kill low-level human warriors. Many powerful beasts swarmed toward Lord Gu and the other two. Most of the powerful beasts had left. Only some low-level ones were coming this way. Li and the others felt less pressured. If they were attacked by powerful beasts nearby, then they wouldn't even have to run. They could just wait for death. They rushed toward the west as fast as they could. Nobody conserved their strength. They flew at the top of their speed. Several low-level, ferocious beasts nearby were killed by them. The team that Luli was with was strong. There was a lord and more than a dozen warriors at the peak of the fifth tribulation. The others were all fifth tribulation warriors, and Luli was the only one at the peak of the fourth tribulation. Roar, roar! On the left side of the mountain range, a giant beast roared. The giant beast was covered in green scales and had 4 very long arms. Those arms had spikes on them, making them look like 4 huge spiked maces. Monster with huge hands, and it is a monster with huge hands. The Lord leading the team looked awful. He shouted, "Let's work together and kill this monster with huge hands. If we are entangled by it, none of us will be able to get away." Many people had heard of this ferocious beast. Without any hesitation, they all released all kinds of divine abilities and bombarded the huge beast. Luli didn't conserve his strength either. He generated 7 or 8 honesty talismans and smashed at the beast. Boom, 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 boom. Nearly 100 people attacked at the same time. Their attacks were violent and ferocious. The beast was forced back and its skin was cracked. The mountains around it collapsed and the earth cracked. However, The gigantic beast was only injured and not killed. The overlord had unleashed a very powerful attack. One more time, the lord shouted. The others released another round of attacks. This time, the beast was badly wounded. It fell over and didn't have the time to attack the others. Go! The overlord waved his hand. Everyone ignored the heavily injured beast and followed the overlord. The lord thought for a moment, then pointed to the 30 people on the left and said, "We'll split into 3 teams. This is Team 1, this is Team 2, and this is Team 3. Everyone listen to my command." "All right, we'll listen to Lord Yang." "Yes, we will listen to Lord Yang." The people around him responded. Lord Yang was obviously someone who had been in a high position for a long time and was used to giving orders. He waved his hand and led the crowd away. A few ferocious beasts appeared in front of them on the left. Their levels were not particularly high. Lord Yang immediately ordered, "Team 1, go out and defeat them. Do not linger." The first team of 30 people immediately rushed to the left. There were 4 ordinary vicious beasts rushing towards them, and they were easily suppressed. Lord Yang led everyone forward. Soon, more beasts approached, and Lord Yang sent out a second team to stop them. The first team had already sent the beasts flying and quickly caught up. On the other side, the third team had already started fighting with the beasts. Lord Yang's strategy was not bad. The 3 teams took turns to attack, which greatly increased the speed of the group's advance. If they attacked together, they would have to take a break. This way, they would be able to move forward like a millstone. Woo-woo, a giant silver wolf rushed over. This wolf had 3 eyes, and before it got close, the third eye opened and shot out a black blade of light. That blade of light wasn't big and didn't look imposing. However, Lord Yang's expression changed as he shouted, "Be careful." His shout was too late. The 3 people in front were struck by the black blade of light. They were cut in half at the waist as though they were tofu. There were a few people in front who were prepared to attack, but they were all frightened and quickly retreated. "Demon blade, demon wolf." Lord Yang shouted and rushed up himself. He shouted, "Everyone attack together. This beast is too fast. Surround it, or all of you will die." Everyone was used to listening to Lord Yang's commands. They all rushed over at once. Lord Yang was already fighting with the demon wolf. He had a shield in his left hand and a saber in his right. He moved like lightning, so fast that people couldn't see him clearly. All they could see was a blur. Lu Li rushed over and released the honesty talisman at the demon wolf in front of him. However, the demon wolf was so fast that it dodged the attack. There were countless people nearby attacking, and some of the attacks landed on the demonic wolf's body. However, they were all relatively weak attacks, and the demonic wolf seemed to have the ability to predict the future. Its body flashed like lightning, dodging all the powerful attacks. The demon wolf kept releasing the kind of black blade of light. Every time, several people would be killed. Many people were wearing armors, but they were killed as easily as if they were tofu. Lord Yang kept attacking. His saber spat out cyan flames. Every time, the space would be torn apart. It was horrifying. It was a pity that he could not hit the demon wolf. He could only make some long-range attacks. Later on, the demon wolf became smarter. It dashed into the crowd and went on a rampage. Its defense was strong. Dozens of attacks only caused some damage to its fur and some bleeding. Whoosh! The demonic wolf dashed towards Lu Li so fast that Lu Li could not dodge it. He had to generate 11 runes to protect himself. The demonic wolf glanced at Lu Li and dashed to the side. It didn't get close to Lu Li. Soul attacks. Lord Yang shouted again. The demon wolf was so fast, and so was its reaction. It was more slippery than a loach. More than half of the people here would die before the demon wolf could be killed. Those who knew how to use soul attacks did so at once. Lu Li took out his soft sword, dashed forward and released the Law of Sound. His Law of Sound was effective and had a wide range. The demon wolf was hit right away. However, there was only a trace of pain in the demon wolf's eyes. It kept moving forward. Clearly, Lu Li's Law of Sound was not powerful enough to stop the demon wolf. Swish, another black blade of light shot out from the demon wolf's vertical eye. Another 2 people were killed. Luli made up his mind and took out his horn. This was not the time to conserve his strength. If he wasted too much time here, none of them might be able to leave alive. Luli approached the demon wolf quickly and shouted, "Back off!" Without waiting for the people nearby to retreat, he started blowing his horn. The bugle horn released the power of the divine sound law, which increased the power of the divine sound law. A deep sound rang out. This time, the pain in the demon wolf's eyes became more obvious, and its speed decreased greatly. Several people nearby were affected as well. They rolled around on the ground in pain. Some others stepped back in fear. They looked at Lu Li as if he were a monster. Well done! Lord Yang was overjoyed. He dashed over. If Lu Li could slow down the demon wolf, Lord Yang would have a chance to kill it. At the very least, it would be easy for him to beat it back. Chapter 2659. With the help of Lu Li's horn, it was much easier for Lord Yang to suppress the beast. He released several powerful attacks in a row and smashed the beast away. Its waist and head were smashed, and one of its legs was broken. Let's go! The wolf was intelligent enough to know that it would die here. It dragged its lame leg and ran away. Lord Yang was decisive as well. He waved his hand and said, "Let's go." They were not here to wipe out the beasts. There were too many beasts here, and they could not kill them all. Running for their lives was the way to go. Lord Yang led the team and ran into the distance. The dead bodies were collected as well. This time, because of this wolf, nearly 30 people had died. It was a heavy loss. If it were not for Lu Li, many more would have died. Therefore, people began to look at Lu Li with more respect. Lu Li seemed to be at the peak of the 4th tribulation. They didn't know that his soul attacks were so powerful. He could even affect the wolf. Also, Lu Li was young. If he could cultivate for tens of thousands of years, he would become a powerful soul warrior. They moved on quickly. They divided into 3 teams, just like before. But the number of people was adjusted. There were only more than 20 people on each team. Their combat abilities were not weakened. This was a matter of life and death for everyone. Nobody could hold back, and they used their best moves. Lu Li had seen many strange skills as well. It was an eye-opener for him. They were lucky. They didn't run into any powerful beasts along the way. The most powerful one was that wolf. Of course, some people died along the way as well. There were too many beasts, and there was no end to them. How could they survive? A ray of light came out from the east. It was dawn. Someone took a look at the map and said with excitement, "Let's speed up. If everything goes well, in the time for 1 incense stick to burn, we can get out of the Dragon Rocky Mountain." The time for 1 incense stick to burn? Everyone's eyes glowed. The time for 1 incense stick to burn was a short time for them. They could survive as long as there were no super powerful beasts. Everyone sped up. Hundreds of beasts appeared in front of them again, but they were not of high ranks. Lord Yang arranged a team to clean them up while the others kept moving forward. Lu Li was in the team. He released the Honesty Talisman and smashed away the beasts one by one. The austere talisman was powerful, which made people look at Lu Li with more respect. As far as they were concerned, Lu Li was not a warrior at the peak of the 4th tribulation, but a warrior at the peak of the 5th tribulation. Everyone quickly killed and defeated the nearby dire beasts before chasing after the main group. However, he had only chased for several hundred kilometers when a series of shocking explosions rang out in front of him, as well as the furious roars of ferocious beasts. Not good. There's a powerful ominous beast. That ominous beast is very strong. The person at the very front stopped in his tracks. His eyes flickered as he said, "Why don't we take a detour? We will be able to rush out soon." This person's words gained the approval of many people. After all, they were not together. They were just running for their lives together. Now that they saw that there was danger over there, if they rushed over like this, they might drag everyone down and die. Without Lord Yang, we would have died long ago. We can't just abandon them. That's right. One must have a conscience. We can't just watch him die. What do you mean by leaving him in the lurch? Lord Yang and the others are so strong. If they can't handle it, what can we do? If you want to die, then go ahead. Let's go. The more than 20 people were divided into two different groups. Some of them swaggered off directly. They were extremely cold-blooded and merciless. Luli didn't leave. As one of them said, if it weren't for Lord Yang, they would have died. Anyways, they had to go and have a look. If they could help, they would. If they could not, they could just leave. Some of them left. Others couldn't sit still anymore. They followed them and ran away. Only Lu Li and 6 others were left. The 7 of them looked at each other and rushed toward the center of the battle. Even before they arrived, everyone's divine consciousness swept over, and after a glance, they were all shocked. There was an iron-armored beast over there, waving its 2 huge pincers as it rampaged about. Many people had already died over there, and there were less than 30 people left. A group of people surrounded the vicious beast and attacked it, but it was very difficult to break through its defenses. On the other hand, the beast was extremely ferocious. Its 2 huge pincers clamped onto a warrior, cut him in half, and then threw him into its mouth to chew. The beast also had a long tail. With one sweep, a warrior would be smashed away while spitting out blood. They were not on the same level. There was only one person here that could hurt the beast, Lord Yang. Lord Yang attacked fiercely, but every time he could only cut off some scales. It would be difficult for him to kill the beast. Not only was the beast covered in iron armor, but its scales were glowing in a faint yellow light. It must be a beast with strong defense. The 7 of them were in a dilemma. Rushing over wouldn't do them much good. But if they did, were they to just watch the beast or run away? At this moment, Lu Li closed his eyes and used the trace of great Tao to sense. The Blood Evil King had sent him a message. Punk Lu, go and find the acupoint of this iron-armored beast. Based on my years of experience, I think the beast must have an entrance. As long as we can find it, it will be easy to hurt it. Lu Li used the trace of the great Tao to sense carefully. With the help of the trace of great Tao, everything became clear. After a while, Lu Li suddenly opened his eyes and shouted, Lord Yang, there's a piece of scale under the beast's abdomen that is slightly dented. Try and attack it. If it were someone else, Lord Yang wouldn't have paid any attention. But since it was Lu Li, Lord Yang took it seriously. Lord Yang used psychic power to check. There was indeed a piece of scale that was dented. His pupils contracted. He flew over like a gust of wind. A sword appeared in his hand, and he stabbed at the scale. Ku, the ferocious beast roared, and a dazzling yellow light shone from its body. The scales beneath it burst open, and fresh blood spurted out. The ferocious beast's aura and speed were greatly weakened. Ku, the ferocious beast, waved its huge pincers and swept them towards Lord Yang. Lord Yang escaped very quickly and floated away, flying into the distance. Ku, ku, blood gushed out from the beast's abdomen. It let out some strange cries and dashed away without looking back. The warriors nearby were relieved. They looked at Lu Li in a different light. They felt Lu Li was full of mystery and magic. He was like a hidden master. Let's go, Lord Yang yelled. He waved his hand and left with the rest of the warriors. Lord Yang didn't say anything to Lu Li, but he gave Lu Li a grateful look. Lord Yang, help. They had just run for more than 30 miles when they heard a panicked shout from the left. They checked with psychic power. Someone sneered. The more than a dozen warriors that were running away were surrounded by beasts. They could faintly see a huge golden beast. Clearly, it was of the same level as the beast. Let's go. Chapter 2660. Lord Yang and the others were not idiots. They could see that only 7 of Lu Li and the others had gone to the other side. They could figure out what was going on easily. Why would the others care about them if they had left the others behind? They ran quickly. This time, they didn't run into any powerful beasts. They all made it out of the Dragon Rocky Mountain. Seeing the plane in front of them, everyone cheered. The feeling of escaping from death always made people happy. The beast upheaval that was only seen once in 100 years was horrifying. Everyone had lost all hope and thought they were doomed. They didn't stop and continued to rush forward. After running for tens of thousands of miles, they finally stopped in a small mountain. Lord Yang waved his hand to let them rest. Then, he walked directly to Lu Li, cupped his fists and said, "How should I address you? I am Luli." In the endless ruins, Luli didn't have to hide his name. Lord Yang nodded and said, "Luli, you are so young, but you are so powerful. In the future, you will become a powerful warrior, and your name will be known all over the world. It is all thanks to you. Otherwise, many of us would have been killed." "Yes, yes. Thank you, little friend Lu. We really had to rely on Lord Yang and little friend Lu this time. Otherwise, we would have definitely died. When we arrive at a safe city, we will invite you to a banquet to thank you for your help." "Of course. We must thank you properly." The others echoed. Less than 40 of the nearly 100 were left. The more than 10 of them might not be able to make it out. They had suffered heavy casualties. Lord Yang had a group of people with him. Many of them had died as well. "Okay, let's take a rest." Lord Yang waved his hand and then chatted with Luli. Lord Yang asked, "Where are you from, Luli? Why are you alone? Are you going somewhere?" Lord Yang was a loyal man. Luli answered with a smile, "I am from the Tianyang dynasty. I'm going to the Great Forest Dynasty to seek shelter for my relatives. Something happened here, and I cannot stay here any longer." "Oh." Lord Yang's eyes were filled with excitement. He suddenly sent a message. "So, Luli, you don't belong to any sect? Are you going to seek shelter from a sect?" Luli nodded. Lord Yang became more enthusiastic. He took Lu Li's hand and said, "Lu, I am one of the protectors of the Heaven Roar dynasty. You know the Heaven Roar clan, right? It can be considered a super large sect, and I officially represent our sect to invite you to join us. I promise you that as long as you join the sect, you will immediately become an inner disciple and enjoy the same treatment as a direct disciple." Tian Shao Empire? Luli knew a little about it. It was mainly because this dynasty was not too far away from the Celestial Emperor sect. It was near the Great Forest Dynasty. It was indeed a major dynasty with a history of hundreds of thousands of years. Lord Yang was very sincere and gave a promise. If Luli were an average person, he would be overjoyed. A patriarch of a big sect directly solicited him and promised to become an inner disciple. This was like ascending to the sky in one step. Luli shook his head and replied with a bitter smile, "Thank you, Lord Yang. My family is over there, and I don't want to join other sections. Please forgive me." Lord Yang was disappointed that Luli didn't even think about it. Luli was so young, but he already had such powerful abilities. Most importantly, he was cultivating his soul. He was a good seedling that could only be found thousands of miles away. The Endless Ruins was a large place with countless warriors. The so-called geniuses were everywhere as well. But there weren't so many promising young men. Every sect was thirsty for talents because a promising young man could become the mainstay of the sect after hundreds or thousands of years. He could even lead the sect to a higher level. Why did the Holy Lady sect abduct girls without caring about their reputation? Wasn't it for the sake of nurturing talents for the later generations? Excellent disciples were the foundation of a sect's long-term development. If a sect could not produce more powerful warriors, then no matter how powerful it was, it would decline and disappear. All right, Lord Yang looked at Luli. Seeing that Luli was not tempted, Lord Yang nodded and said, "I respect your decision. But if one day you want to join the Heaven Roar clan, you can come and find me at the Heaven Roar clan anytime. My promise is valid." "Okay, thank you, Lord Yang." Luli cupped his fists. Lord Yang went back to his team. Luli was about to cultivate when a beautiful lady walked over with a snake monster. She walked to Lu Li and said with a smile, "Young Master Lu, I want to talk to you about something." The lady looked enchanting, but clearly, she was advanced in age. She was like a ripe apple. Luli felt a chill down his spine. She could even be his great-grandmother. How would she call herself, sister? Luli forced a smile and said, "Go ahead. I am from the Celestial sect. Have you heard of it?" The pretty lady said with a smile. Celestial sect? Luli squinted his eyes. Of course, he had heard of this sect. It was so famous. The main members of this sect were all ladies. It was well known in the Endless Ruins. This sect was rich in socialites. Every one of the ladies was good at seduction skills, and they were friends with many forces. It was said that the ladies of the celestial sect were the best partners in bed in the endless ruins of God. The reason why they could be friends with the forces was that they slept with their disciples. The celestial sect actually had a nickname in the endless ruins of God, the Pavilion of Blossoms. It was not a compliment, but a derogatory one. It meant that the celestial sect was the largest brothel in the endless ruins of God. All the disciples were brothel ladies, but they only served the big shots of the major forces. Every year, many disciples of the celestial sect would marry off. Usually, they would be concubines of the big shots. Some of them would become the wives of the big shots, but they were few. After all, the celestial sect was famous for its womanizing. Of course, there were many men who were eager to go to the celestial sect. The celestial sect had the ladies who knew how to serve men. It was said that if a man could live in the celestial sect for a couple of years, he would not have the taste of meat for 300 years. Luli didn't discriminate against ladies of the brothel, but he didn't like this old woman who was flirting here. Therefore, he said coldly, "You are from the celestial sect. Sorry for not recognizing you." Hee hee. The lady didn't mind Lu Li's indifference. She winked at him and said, "Young Master Lu, are you interested in joining the celestial sect? I promise you that you will be the happiest man in the world." The celestial sect rarely takes in male disciples. You can live among the beauties and enjoy the happy life that many men in the world yearn for. Lu Li's heart skipped a beat. There were indeed few male disciples in the celestial sect. If he could join the celestial sect, he would have unparalleled luck with women. But soon he calmed down. He shook his head and said, "Thank you for your kind invitation. I don't want to be sucked dry. I want to live for a few more years." Tens of thousands of female disciples were all proficient in seduction skills. He would be used as a test subject. The disciples would come to him to practice their skills in bed when they were free. If he went to the celestial sect, he would be sucked dry in a few years. By then, he would become a mummy and a specimen. If so, I won't say more. Chapter 26:61. Lu Li and the others waited on the hill for half a day. People came out from a mountain one after another, but not many. In half a day, only about 300 came out. It had been half a day, so it was very likely that most of them would have to stay in the Dragon Rocky Mountain. Whoosh! After another half an hour, a few figures flew out from inside. Everyone looked at them and were overjoyed. Lord Gu had come out. Even though he was covered in blood and injured in many places, it was a good thing that he could come out. That being said, the passengers and the two lords with Lord Gu did not come out. They must have died in there. Lord Gu sat down on the ground with his legs crossed and said with a bitter smile, "You have suffered. The Cabinet of Heaven is sorry. The Cabinet of Heaven will compensate you later. Please don't be impatient. Let me treat my wounds and see if anyone can come out." Lord Gu was back. Everyone felt they had found their backbone. At least, the Cabinet of Heaven would take them on with their journey. Those who died would be compensated. This was a rare piece of good news. They sat down and waited. People came out one after another, but only one or two at most. By the time the sky turned dark, nearly 100 people had come out. If they could not come out during the day, then none would be able to come out when the 12 blood moons rose up at night. The warriors here were not worried because the one with the flying beast was still here. Later, when the shield was activated, the flying beast would not be affected by the blood moons. When the blood moons rose up, the warriors went into the beast. Lord Gu's wounds were not fully recovered yet. Of course, he wanted to wait and see if anyone could come out alive. They waited for a whole night, and nobody came out. At dawn the next day, Lord Gu gave the order to set off. Nobody came out for a whole night. The chances of survival were less than 1%. The flying beasts broke through the sky and left. The people inside were silent, and many of them had sad expressions on their faces. This time, many of them had come in groups, and many of them were families. The passing of friends and relatives made them very sad. Life and death were common in the endless ruins. But how could they not care about the separation of life and death? Lu Li cultivated as soon as he went up. He didn't care about anything, and he didn't want to be solicited. He only wanted to go to the Heavenly Emperor's sect. The Heavenly Emperor's sect was his only way out. There was no meaning in joining any other forces. Many people were still discussing what had happened in the Dragon Rocky mountain range. Lord Gu's subordinates began to transmit messages to everyone, asking about what had happened in the mountain range, as well as how many people had died, their identities, and so on. After a while, those who asked questions reported to Lord Gu. Lord Gu's eyes glowed as he listened. He turned to Lu Li. After a while, he sent an invitation to Lu Li, inviting Lu Li to join on behalf of the Cabinet of Heaven Will. Naturally, Lu Li refused without any hesitation. The Heaven Will Pavilion was big and famous, but it meant nothing to Lu Li. Lord Gu didn't say much. The Heavens Will Pavilion was so strong, they wouldn't lack 1 or 2 genius disciples. There was no need to force it. The flying beast flew quickly. After arriving at a large city nearby, it stopped. Lord Gu invited everyone to go down and rest. Lu Li was woken up. He went down to a castle with the others. The Heaven Will Pavilion treated everyone well. They had an unlimited supply of top-level fruits. After 3 days of comfort, the Heaven Will Pavilion compensated everyone who was still alive with divine stones. Lu Li gave 500 billion divine stones, which was half of the traveling expenses. Some of the deceased family members must have been compensated as well. Lu Li didn't know how much the deceased had been compensated, but if he could compensate so much, it must be a lot. The Heaven Will Pavilion was being kind. After all, they had agreed that they would not interfere if something happened at the Dragon Rocky Mountain. Several days later, they moved on. Some got on the flying beasts as well. There were hundreds more people and 2 more lords' escorts. Lu Li was relieved. Lord Gu had said that as long as they could make it past the Dragon Rocky Mountain, he would be safe. Many wanted to build a relationship with Lu Li, but he had been in closed-door cultivation and wouldn't talk to anyone. They gave up on the idea. Some were cultivating, some were chatting, and some were sightseeing. Lu Li continued to study that soul skill and cultivate divine energy and soul at the same time. The rest of the journey was smooth. It was peaceful and there were no more problems. Time flew when one was cultivating. Soon, a year had passed. Lu Li had made rapid progress. Not only had he stabilized his realm, but he had also made a breakthrough in the soul skill. He had not mastered it yet, but he was at the beginner level. This was a powerful offensive skill. If he could master it, Lu Li would have another powerful offensive skill. This was a skill created by the Tao Heaven Ancestor. It must be horrifying. They happened to be passing by a big city. They had to stay here for 10 days. Lu Li went to rest for a few days. He slept for 2 days to recover his spirit. 10 days later, they were on their way. Lu Li went back to cultivation. He didn't even bother to ask about Lu Li and Xiang Linglong because it would be pointless. There was nothing he could do now. He would have to wait until they arrived at the Heaven Emperor's sect. Time moved on. Soon, another year had passed. Lu Li arrived at his destination, the Great Forest Dynasty. The Heaven Emperor Dynasty was next to the Heaven Emperor Dynasty. It would only take him 2 or 3 months to fly there. Lu Li got off the flying beast and sneaked into the city. He was not in a hurry to go to the Heaven Emperor Dynasty. Instead, he began to gather information. It was not easy to join the Heaven Emperor's sect. Not everyone could join the Heaven Emperor's sect. Therefore, Lu Li must find out the situation first. Otherwise, if he could not join the Heaven Emperor's sect this time, he might never be able to do so. Lu Li investigated for 3 whole days and got a lot of useful information. But it was a headache for him. It was not easy to join the Heaven Emperor's sect. The recruitment process was too strict. There were 15 major families in the Heaven Emperor's sect. Every family had many talented disciples. The Heaven Emperor's sect was never in need of talented disciples. They would recruit disciples from the outside, but they would not accept those who were not particularly talented. Every 2 years, the Heaven Emperor's sect would recruit disciples, but there were only 10 slots. Every 2 years, many young warriors would come from all directions, waiting for the Heaven Emperor's sect's biennial recruitment, the most powerful sect in the world. The Heaven Emperor's sect was a holy land that many yearned to join. Joining the Heaven Emperor's sect would mean a meteoric rise in their career. Disciples of small families and their families would never be bullied again. 5,000. Luli learned that there were at least 5,000 people in the Heaven Emperor's sect waiting for the recruitment ceremony in 5 months. None of them were average warriors. It was said that there were over 100 at the peak of the fifth tribulation. Chapter 2662. Luli didn't choose to fly over. Instead, he rode on a flying beast. The recruitment ceremony was in 5 months, and Luli was afraid that something might happen along the way. It would only take him over a month to ride on a flying beast. Luli had enough time to prepare. Along the way, Luli continued to study the soul skill. He had not mastered it yet, and it would take him some more time. If he was lucky, he might be able to make it in half a month. If he was stuck, he might need 3 to 5 years or even hundreds of years. A month later, Luli arrived at the celestial relic city. He was taken aback when he saw the huge city. Below him was a huge mountain with 9 other mountains nearby. The celestial relic city was located on the mountain in the middle. The mountain seemed to have been cut in half. It was shorter than the other mountains nearby. That being said, it felt like it was surrounded by mountains. The city was huge as well. Not only was there a super huge city in the middle, but the other 9 mountains also had cities, surrounded by stars. The huge city in the middle was even more majestic. When Luli woke up, the flying beasts were already there. Luli took a look and saw flying beasts everywhere. There must be at least hundreds of thousands of them. Fortunately, most of the beasts were flying around the city. Otherwise, there would be no light above the city. It would be blocked by the beasts. Looking down from the sky, the city was covered with straight streets and neat castles. There was no end to it. This was the largest city Luli had ever seen. Compared to this city, the cities in the third heaven were dwarfed. There were many patrolling warriors in the sky as well. They wore glistening white armors and had spears in their hands. They were riding on powerful beasts, majestic and awe-inspiring. Here we are. Off you go. An old commander on the flying beast waved his hand and said, "I think you all know the rules. This is the celestial city, the most powerful city in the endless ruins of gods. Do not use force in the city, or you will be killed without exception." Luli and the others knew this, even without the commander's reminder. To use force in the city was to provoke the celestial sect, the most powerful sect in the endless ruins of gods. What was the difference between that and hanging oneself? Someone had already gone to negotiate. Luli and the others left the flying beast obediently. They landed at the plaza and then dispersed to several streets. For such a large city, hundreds of people were like raindrops in the ocean. Luli found a tavern to stay in and then went to gather information. After searching for half a day, he obtained a lot of information. However, the information he obtained was about the same as that of the Great Forest Dynasty. There were indeed several thousand people living in the city. Some of them had even lived here for 3 to 4 years. They had failed the last recruitment and had been cultivating here all this time, waiting for the next round of recruitment. Luli had also scouted out the information of many talented youths. They were also the most popular talents in this recruitment. Not only did many people pay attention to the biennial recruitment ceremony, but there were also countless people who used the recruitment ceremony to gamble. There was a mysterious clan in the Celestial Emperor sect. Every 2 years, they would be the banker, and the amount of divine stones they gambled would be astronomical. There was no way to cheat, so there were a lot of people who gambled. Because every year's recruitment was an open competition, the whole process was transparent, and there was no way to manipulate it. The Celestial Emperor sect wouldn't allow anyone to control the recruitment ceremony. After all, this concerned the reputation of the Celestial Emperor sect and also the reserve of the Celestial Emperor sect's younger generation elite disciples. This matter was extremely important to the Celestial Emperor sect. Naturally, they wouldn't allow anyone to control it from the shadows. Since they were going to be the banker and gamble, then they must have the odds and the information of all the contestants. Many people had registered early on, and their situation had been closely watched. The information had already spread throughout the city. Currently, Windhowl had a total of 35 people. These 35 people were all at the peak of the fifth tribulation. Even though there were differences in age, there was no doubt that they were all extremely powerful and had powerful divine abilities and secret techniques. Guan Xinxiu, 1,500 years old, peak of the fifth tribulation, has a sovereign weapon, has learned the ultimate fundamental meaning of fire, world destruction, overall score, 9 stars. Hu Shimeng, 3,900 years old, peak of the fifth tribulation, has learned the ultimate fundamental meaning of destruction and has secret skills. Overall score, 9 stars. Wang Ningxue, 980 years old, peak of the fifth tribulation, suspected to be the granddaughter of the Sin Emperor. Peak of the fifth tribulation, unknown skills, overall score, 9 stars. Luli glanced over the information in his hands and felt a headache coming on. There was information on 35 people. He knew most of them, and the information of the warriors made Lu Li's heart heavy. The competition was more than strong. He had no confidence that he could break through. "Punk, don't be discouraged," the Blood Emperor suddenly said. "The Heaven Emperor sect's recruitment is not based solely on combat abilities. There must be a comprehensive evaluation. Your advantage is your age. I don't think you are over 200 years old. This is a strong advantage." Okay. Luli was cheered up. He sat for a while and didn't think too much. He would try his best. Whether he could get in or not would be up to fate. It was pointless to think too much. He might as well cultivate and do his best. Luli went out and found a castle. This was the place to sign up. Luli walked in and saw an old man sitting behind a desk, reading some documents. Luli walked over, cupped his fists, and said, "Lord, I would like to sign up for the recruitment ceremony." The old man was old. His brows were wrinkled like old tree bark. He looked up at Luli and was surprised. He asked with a frown, "Do you know that it costs 1 billion divine stones to sign up? Are you sure you want to join the recruitment ceremony?" "Yes." Luli nodded with determination. He knew why the old man was surprised. On the surface, Luli was only at the peak of the fourth tribulation. This time, all the applicants were at the fifth tribulation. If Luli signed up at his realm, he would be eliminated in the first round. The 1 billion divine stones would be wasted. "Young man," the old man thought about it and advised, "there are more than 5,000 people who have signed up this time, and all of them are fifth tribulation warriors. Only 20 people have been accepted, so don't waste your divine stones. Go buy some elixirs and cultivate well." 20? Luli was surprised. He was told that there were 10. How come it was 20 now? Was it because there were so many applicants this year that there were 10 more? Luli voiced his doubts. The old man explained patiently, "Every time there will be 20, but 10 will be official disciples, and the other 10 will be registered disciples. The registered disciples will be tested for 3 years. If they cannot pass the test, they will be disqualified as well. The tests for registered disciples are stricter. Usually, only 1 or 2 out of 10 registered disciples will stay after 3 years." "I see." Luli understood now. The registered disciples must be a consolation prize to give people a glimmer of hope. He took out the divine stones and said with determination, "Lord, please sign me up. I have made up my mind." "All right." Chapter 2663. Luli signed up. Half a month later, the information was made public, which caught many people's attention. Another 10 days passed. There was news from the dealer that Luli was going to have a separate betting slot, which attracted more attention. Over the course of history, there were warriors at the fourth tribulation and some at the initial stage of the fourth tribulation. But there were disciples from famous families, and there were talented talents. Those people were young and had endless possibilities. Therefore, they had great potential. It was highly possible that they could become disciples of the Celestial Emperor sect. Such things happened many times in history. It was confirmed that Luli was not a disciple of a famous family. He came here on a flying beast, which was easy to find out. Also, the tavern he stayed in, the robes he wore, and his temperament did not look like that of a disciple of a noble family. Therefore, Luli was assumed to be a warrior at the peak of the fourth tribulation, and he wanted to try his luck. Usually, warriors at the peak of the fourth tribulation rarely signed up, because 1 billion divine stones was not a small amount. How could they squander it when they knew that there was no hope? Therefore, Lu Li signing up attracted many people's attention. More importantly, some gamblers wanted to bet on Lu Li to earn some divine stones. Now they had to see the odds. During this time, some big shots nearby came as well. For one thing, they wanted to see if there would be any drama this year. For another, they wanted to see some of the talents that failed to make the cut. If the Celestial Emperor's sect didn't want them, they could. Recently, many taverns in the Celestial Emperor's city were full. There were at least millions more people in the city. Most of them were here for the fun. Also, there would be some big shots from the Celestial Emperor's sect. They would feel honored to be able to meet them. More of them were young disciples from small families or sections. They were here to socialize and see if they could find someone they liked or if they could have a beautiful story. Lu Li paid no attention to what was going on outside during this time. He focused on the soul skill. If he could master it, his chances of success would increase. Therefore, he was working hard. Haste makes waste. The more impatient Lu Li was, the slower he felt. 3 months passed by quickly. Lu Li still felt he was not there yet. He was stuck in a bottleneck and could not make the breakthrough. Never mind. Although there were still about 10 days until the recruitment ceremony, Lu Li didn't force it. Since he hadn't made much progress in the past 3 months, then he definitely wouldn't be able to make much progress in the next 10 days. He might as well take a good rest for a few days and let his essence, chi, and spirit recover to their peak condition. That way, he would have a higher chance of success. Lu Li didn't want to think about anything else. He ate and drank to his heart's content. He even got drunk and fell asleep. He slept for 3 days and 3 nights. When he woke up, he didn't go out. Instead, he cultivated in the inn, restoring himself to peak condition in all aspects. On the 10th day, Lu Li took a shower, changed into a clean robe, and strode out. The outside was already bustling with noise and excitement. Countless people soared into the sky and flew towards the northern part of the city. Lu Li flew up as well and followed the others to the north of the city. The recruitment ceremony would be held there. Squads of patrolling soldiers could be seen in the air. There were at least a few thousand of them, and the surroundings were filled with soldiers riding on ferocious beasts, clad in battle armor and wielding spears. Even though there were many martial artists in the surroundings, no one dared to act recklessly. No one had the guts to act recklessly in the Heavenly Emperor's sect. Not even the super forces had the guts to challenge the Heavenly Emperor's sect, let alone some independent cultivators. Lu Li arrived at the sky above the northern part of the city. The city was full of people, but the plaza was empty. Only a few thousand people were standing orderly. It seemed that these few thousand people were here for the recruitment ceremony. There were many patrolling soldiers. As soon as Lu Li approached, he was stopped by a team. When Lu Li took out his token, one of the warriors put on a strange smile. He nodded to Lu Li and said, "You are Lu Li, right? Do well this time, and I will bet on you." "Bet on me?" Lu Li was taken aback for a moment. Then he realized that someone was betting on their ranking. Lu Li thought about it and asked, "What rank did you bet on me?" "What rank?" "Ha ha ha ha." A team of warriors laughed. One of them said bluntly, "I bet on you to be eliminated in the first round and in the time for 1 incense stick to burn. Don't push yourself too hard. Don't lose your life." Lu Li rolled his eyes speechlessly. This guy was looking down on him too much. Eliminated in the time for 1 incense stick to burn? Did he really think he was a weakling? Lu Li didn't get angry. Instead, he said in a low voice, "I have a suggestion. Bet on me. I will make it to the top 100. Top 100? A team of warriors laughed, but they didn't go on with their sarcasm. One of them waved his hand and said, "Okay, that's enough. Take the token and go to the plaza. The ceremony is about to begin." Lu Li nodded. After a while, he turned around and said seriously, "I hope you will consider my suggestion seriously. Otherwise, don't regret it." Ha ha ha. A team of warriors laughed again. After Lu Li flew down, one of them said after some thoughts, "Is this punk a hidden, powerful warrior? Should we go and buy some? What if he wins?" Ha ha ha. Another warrior sneered and said, "Go ahead. Go ahead." We don't have so many divine stones to waste. Lu Li flew down and landed on the plaza. Someone came to greet him immediately. Looking at the token in Lu Li's hand, he waved his hand and said, "Stand over there and wait for the ceremony to begin. Listen to orders. If you dare to do anything rash, I will disqualify you and you will be expelled." Yes, Lu Li could not do anything rash since it concerned whether he could enter the Heaven Emperor's sect or not. He walked to a corner and waited for the ceremony to begin. Lu Li's arrival caught many people's attention, but they were all looking at him with sarcasm. All the warriors here were at the fifth tribulation. Lu Li, who was at the peak of the fourth tribulation, stood out. Lu Li didn't care about the looks around him. He stood there in silence, submissive and submissive. To many people, Lu Li looked weak, which indirectly made others look down on him. This was what Lu Li wanted. He had learned the rules of the ceremony. Direct combat, simple and violent. Of course, the combat would not be based on strength or by drawing lots. At the beginning, the participants would be assigned according to age. Those of similar age would compete together, and the elimination would be carried out in pairs. Later on, the top 100 would be considered the semifinals. The rules would be adjusted and would change frequently. Lu Li's main goal was to make it to the semifinals. Therefore, he could not be too high profile at the beginning so that he could advance faster. As long as he could make it to the top 100, it would be okay to expose his strength. Of course, now that he was in the top 100, it was impossible to hide his abilities. He must go all out to have a chance to make it to the top 10. I must make it to the top 10. Chapter 2664. People were coming from all around the city. The city could no longer accommodate people in the city. Many people were standing near the city. It was easier to watch from the sky. After waiting for an hour, almost all the participants of the recruitment ceremony had arrived. The security in the city had also become even tighter. It seemed like the important figures of the Heavenly Emperor sect were about to arrive. Another hour later, there was a commotion at the city master's mansion. Then, a group of people walked out from the mansion, causing quite a commotion. Lu Li didn't dare to use psychic power. He saw an old man in a splendid robe walking over in strides, surrounded by a group of people like stars surrounding the moon. The old man didn't have a strong aura and seemed like an ordinary old man. He didn't have an awe-inspiring aura either. Instead, he looked like a kind old man with a smile that made people feel like they were bathing in the spring breeze. "Greetings, Emperor Rui." The surrounding troops knelt down one by one, and the participants immediately knelt down as well. An emperor-ranked martial artist was worthy of everyone kneeling down and worshipping. Lu Li knelt down as well. Powerful warriors of the great emperor realm deserve his respect, and this old man was so kind. Lu Li had a good impression of him. "Ha ha ha, rise." Emperor Rui waved his hand and said with a smile, 130,000 years ago, I was standing here, just like you. Today, I am filled with emotion." Compliments were heard from all around. Emperor Rui waved his hand. Looking at Lu Li and the more than 5,000 warriors, he said, "Guys, you are all the chosen ones, the elites of the younger generation. It is an honor for the Celestial Emperor sect to be able to attend the recruitment ceremony of the Celestial Emperor sect. Let's cut to the chase. Do your best. I will be here throughout the recruitment ceremony. I can assure you that it will be fair and just." Everyone was excited. They were not worried about fairness. What they cared about was that Emperor Rui would be here to observe. If they could perform well and catch the attention of Emperor Rui, they would have a better chance of joining the Celestial Emperor sect, not to mention being accepted as a personal disciple. With that said, the Rui Emperor walked to some elegantly decorated stands and sat down. A patriarch came out to announce the rules and gave a long speech. Lu Li listened to it word for word. Where will the competition be held? Lu Li looked to the left and to the right. The city was not large. They could not fight in the city. It was not practical to fight above the city either. After all, the shockwaves from the attacks of so many powerful warriors could destroy the city. Buzzing. A patriarch took out a piece of artifact to answer Lu Li's question. He took out a translucent pagoda with more than 10 floors and threw it into the air. The pagoda rapidly enlarged and became completely transparent. Everyone could clearly see that there were hundreds of rooms in the pagoda. Are they going to fight in the pagoda? Luli frowned. The room in the pagoda was too small. All right, those whose names are called, go to the corresponding arena to compete. Remember, try not to kill anyone. We will be watching from below. If you kill someone with malicious intent, you will be disqualified immediately. The first one took out a list and read, Lu Zhilong, Wang Changyu, go to field number 1. The two people whose names were called immediately soared into the sky and rushed into the pagoda, high up in the sky. As soon as they entered the gate, they shrank into pocket-sized people. They went into a room, and their bodies shrank again. Compared to the room, they were like 2 mosquitoes. Nice! Luli used psychic power to check. He was surprised to find that he could see the situation of the two easily. Someone else must have never seen this before. They all exclaimed in disgust. Someone explained, this pagoda is called Finger Spire. There are 360 small worlds in it. It is very strong in defense. It is a rare treasure. Finger Spire, Luli said to himself. The patriarch went on reading names. More and more people flew up and entered a small room in the Finger Spire to start the competition. Soon, the more than 300 rooms were full. Luli didn't participate in the first round. He could observe the fights inside. This pagoda was indeed very magical. It was a pagoda with a circumference of only a few hundred feet, but there were more than 700 little people competing inside. Divine Sense could casually lock onto a room and easily detect the battle between two people. It was extremely magical. The fights inside were intense. Winners and losers were determined in many places. Some people admitted defeat after they were injured. What else could they do? Wait for their opponents to kill them? The pagoda was miraculous as well. As long as they admitted defeat, they would be teleported out and someone would record the winner and loser. Those who won were jubilant, and those who lost would leave in low spirits. When someone's fight was over, as long as there were 10 vacant fields, the patriarch would arrange for the next 5 teams to go in. There were at least hundreds of thousands of people gathered around the city. In addition, there were nearly 10 million people inside the city. More than 10 million psychic powers were checking the situation inside the Finger Spire. Maybe it was because Luli registered late that he was not called up. Luli began to observe patiently. There were indeed crouching tigers and hidden dragons in this competition. Many of them had powerful treasures, mystical abilities, secret techniques, and battle prowess. Boom! In one of the rooms, a warrior was hit by a powerful move released by another warrior. The warrior was killed directly. A patriarch flew into a rage and said, "The one in room 137 is too murderous. Disqualify him." His voice was very loud, and it spread throughout the entire city. The rest of the participants were all secretly shocked. They told themselves that unless it was absolutely necessary, they should not use desperate moves. Even if they did, they should try not to kill. Otherwise, if they were disqualified, it would be pointless to kill more people. Wow, Wang Ningxue is here. TSK. She really is the granddaughter of the Asmodean warrior. She is so strong. She defeated her opponent in one move. Her opponent is at the latter stage of the 5th tribulation realm. She is so pretty. I think she has a good chance of making it to the top 10. Does beauty have anything to do with making it to the top 10? Guan Qinxiu is the best. He just defeated a warrior at the peak of the 5th tribulation realm effortlessly. He is so strong. I bet on Guan Qinxiu to win. Don't let me down this time. People were discussing in a low voice. Lu Li and the others heard it, but didn't know what to feel. The stronger these people were, the slimmer their chances of making it to the top 10 were. Many of them had traveled thousands of miles to come here. What was it for? They wanted to join the Heaven Emperor sect. Next, Choyu Luli, arena number 79. An hour later, Luli suddenly heard his name being called while he was still watching the fight. He was cheered up at once. He flew up and dashed toward the tower. TSK, that Luli is here. I bet 100 million on him. I bet he can't last the time for one incense stick to burn. I bet he will lose as well. I bet 5 billion divine stones. Ha! Ha! Choyu is at the middle stage of the fifth tribulation realm. That is enough to defeat him. Whether I can go to the Fanhua Pavilion to drink and hug some pretty girls will depend on me. Chapter 2665. Lu Li and Choyu dashed into the tower. They felt they had entered a rectangular hall. The hall was lined up in a row. There were doors inside, and numbers were written on all the doors. Lu Li and Aqua Rose ran all the way and soon found the number 79 venue. With a flash, the two of them charged in and found that the scenery had changed. They had appeared in a small world. The small world was not large, only with a radius of more than 3,000 miles. But it was enough for them to fight. What a miraculous treasure! Lu Li nodded to himself. The man glanced around and then looked at Lu Li. There was a trace of contempt in his eyes, but he still cupped his fists and said politely, I am Choyu of the Cho family of the Waters Manor. Please. Hypocrite. Lu Li sneered to himself. This man looked down on Lu Li. He must be pretending to be like this for others to see. Lu Li casually cupped his fists as well, but there was no contempt in his eyes. Instead, he was solemn. He knew that everything here could be seen from the outside. If he were to reveal too much of his abilities, he would attract too much attention. By then, it would not be so easy for him to win. I'm making my move. Be careful. Choyu took out a blue longbow, then quickly drew it and shot an arrow. 3 streams of light immediately flew out, transforming into 3 blue dragons that roared as they charged forward. Whoosh! Lu Li ran away at once. But the 3 dragons seemed to have eyes of their own. They chased after Lu Li at a fast speed. Lu Li could have avoided them if he had sped up, but he chose to take it head-on. He wanted everyone to look down on him so that he could win the fight later. Boom, boom, boom. The 3 blue dragons landed on Lu Li. Lu Li put on an armor, but soon it cracked. He was smashed away. Blood spilled everywhere. He was in a sorry state. Lu Li didn't release his dragon wrestle skill. Once he did, this man would not be able to break his defense, given his abilities. Choyu's bow must be a piece of treasure. The 3 arrows were imbued with the fundamental principle of destruction. Therefore, Choyu's skin was torn open. Lu Li was covered in blood and looked miserable. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Choyu's face was filled with a cold smile as he released another 3 divine arrows, and the 3 blue dragons once again whizzed forward. Lu Li had no choice but to run for his life again. In the end, the dragon caught up with him, and he was blasted away again. Boom, boom, boom. Lu Li rolled around in midair. His armor was ruined like a beggar, and he was bleeding profusely. He could die at any moment. Ha, this round is in the bag. TSK, TSK. I already told you to buy the same thing as me, but you didn't listen. A peak 4th tribulation dares to participate in the student recruitment ceremony? Isn't this clearly courting death? I bet 500 million celestial stones on this kid. Although the odds are a little low, 100 million celestial stones is a sure win. Let's go drinking tonight, my treat. Kid, hurry up and admit defeat. I bet that he'll be defeated in the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. Why is this trash still wasting time? Surrender now. Sounds of discussion could be heard everywhere inside and outside the city. It was noisy like a market. At least hundreds of thousands of people were watching Lu Li with psychic power. It seemed that many people were betting on Lu Li and many were interested in this fight. 2 or 3 patriarchs in the spectator stand were paying attention to Lu Li as well, mainly because Lu Li was the only warrior at the peak of the 4th tribulation and he was very young. One patriarch took a look, shook his head, and sighed. This kid is good in defense, but he is not strong enough. I don't think he can win the first round. Ha. The Rue Emperor, who had been silent all this while, suddenly said with a smile, This kid is pretending to be weak. I think he can even make it to the top 100. The patriarchs looked at each other, speechless. The Rue Emperor was a man with sharp eyes. How could he be wrong? If the Rue Emperor was right, then they must be wrong. At first, only 2 or 3 patriarchs were paying attention. As soon as the Rue Emperor spoke, all the patriarchs looked over. But after a few looks, they did not see anything special about Lu Li. Lu Li had been dodging Cho Yu's attacks, jumping up and down like a monkey. Yet, he could not dodge and was smashed away again and again. After a while, an old patriarch noticed something. He said, "This kid looks miserable, but he is faking it. Or, he is doing it on purpose. There is no trace of panic or fear in his eyes. He is hiding it well, but everything is under his control. If he wants to win, he can do it easily. He is doing it on purpose to give people the impression that he is weak." They were all experienced warriors. They could see the indifference and coldness in the depth of Lu Li's eyes. Even though he seemed to be panicking, his eyes could not lie. Lu Li's injuries seemed to be getting worse under the continuous attacks. That being said, they were all superficial wounds. It seemed that he could be killed at any time. That being said, if he really wanted to buy time, he could keep going. After the time for one incense stick to burn, Lu Li didn't want to waste any more time. He sped up, and at the same time, he released dragon wrestling skill to fight against the 3 blue dragons. This time, he was not smashed away. Instead, he didn't stop for a moment. In a flash, he had reached Cho Yu. He grabbed Cho Yu's shoulder with one hand and smashed at Cho Yu with the other. Cho Yu was surprised. He quickly took out a black dagger and stabbed at Lu Li's chest. The dagger was surrounded by black air. Clearly, it was a valuable piece of treasure. Cho Yu swung the dagger and stabbed at Lu Li's chest in a flash. However, he felt like he was stabbing an iron plate. He could only go half an inch in and couldn't go any further. Boom! Lu Li's punch landed on Cho Yu's face with great force. Cho Yu felt a huge force and a sharp pain on his face. He felt like he was seeing stars. Boom, 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 boom. Before Cho Yu could react, Lu Li kept punching at him. Cho Yu felt a piercing pain in his heart, and a sense of fatal danger emerged in his soul. He wanted to get rid of Lu Li, but Lu Li's hand was like a pincer. Cho Yu could not get away. Boom! Cho Yu was punched several more times. He realized that his head was broken. If this went on, he would die here. He shouted helplessly, "I give up! I give up!" Lu Li stopped at once. He wiped his face with his hand so that his face was covered in blood. He was in a sorry state. He was breathing heavily. It seemed that this was not an easy win at all. Buzzing. Both of them were teleported out. Many people were cursing at Lu Li from all directions. Many people were glaring at Lu Li as if they wanted to hack him into pieces. Lu Li had made many people lose many godstones. At that punk one of the sergeants murmured in disbelief. Some others looked gloomy because they had all bet on Lu Li to lose. They remembered what Lu Li said. Their eyes flickered. One of them thought about it and said, "Did he really hide his strength? Does he really have a chance to make it to the top 100? Later, I will bet 100 million godstones that he can make it to the top 100. The odds are too high 100 times. If he wins, he will get 10 billion godstones." A warrior made up his mind. Another warrior sneered and said, "Then why don't you bet on him making it to the top 30? If he wins, you will get 100 billion godstones." Chapter 2666. After the fight, Lu Li was told that he could go back and rest or continue to watch. Naturally, Lu Li chose to watch. His wounds were not serious, and he didn't even need to be treated. He could recover on his own. Of course, Lu Li chose to sit in a corner and pretended to consume the 2 herbs. Then, he sat down to meditate. He used the trace of Tao to sense the situation in the tower and observe the fight. Rui Emperor suddenly glanced over. Lu Li felt he was being cut by a knife. Out of instinct, he opened his eyes and made eye contact with Rui Emperor. Rui Emperor smiled and looked away. His smiling eyes seemed to contain a sea of stars. Lu Li felt all his secrets have been seen through by Rui Emperor. He can sense that I am using the trace of Tao to check. I wonder if he can tell that I have the malevolent body of 7 trials? Lu Li had a question. He wondered if there was such a legend in the endless ruins of divinity. But at least Rui Emperor noticed him. Lu Li was a bit excited. It was a good thing that an emperor from the Heaven Emperor sect was paying special attention to him. Lu Li didn't think too much. He continued to use the trace of Tao to check. He observed the abilities of all the participants and their unique moves and skills. The fights progressed quickly. Many people were of similar age, but their abilities were different. For example, one was born in a prestigious family, and the other was from a poor family. How could they be the same? Their armors and weapons were not of the same level. Therefore, the fights progressed quickly. 2 hours later, hundreds of fights had been held. Hundreds had advanced, and hundreds more had been eliminated. Most of the eliminated had left. Most of the ones that had advanced stayed. Those that stayed wanted to watch more. After all, only by knowing oneself and the enemy could one win 100 battles. Luli looked around. He noticed something was not right. Of the 35 most popular warriors, 18 had gone up to fight, and all of them had won. None of them had any blood on them. He had even observed a few of their battles. They were ferocious, and their combat strength was too strong. There were 35 people with the highest number of requests, but only 10 were being recruited. The other 10 registered disciples could be ignored because that was a consolation prize. 3 years later, only 1 or 2 out of the 10 would stay. Then what would be the point of having 10 registered disciples? There were 10 places, and even 35 of them were not enough. Did the rest of them even have a chance? Luli also felt that there was little hope, especially after watching the battles of the others. His heart sank even more, but he didn't know the rules of the semifinals. The first round of the competition was completed in just half a day. There were more than 300 rooms, and each room had more than 3,000 people fighting 10 times. There were more than 5,000 people in total, and each battle would basically end in an hour. After fighting so many battles, only one person had died. However, there were many people who were seriously injured. Of course, as long as they didn't die and their souls weren't injured, no matter how serious their injuries were, they could be healed. When the first round of the competition was over, the Rue Emperor left with his people. An elder stayed behind and told all the participants to retreat. Those who were injured had to rest and recuperate. The second round of the competition would be held in 10 days. Luli and the others went back, and the onlookers left as well. Many people were in high spirits, but many were depressed. It wasn't because their friends had been eliminated, but because they had lost the bet. Back at the Celestial City, Luli turned on the shield of the tavern at once and seized the time to cultivate. He had just been cultivating for 2 days when the inhibition formation was triggered. Luli opened the divine rune with a frown and used psychic power to check. A beautiful lady pushed the door open and said with a smile, "Young Master Lu, it has been a while. Have we met?" Luli looked at the lady with alertness. He had never seen her before. Clearly, she was up to no good since she came in uninvited. The lady rolled her eyes and said in a spoiled manner, "Young Master Lu, you were so naughty. You turned your back on me as soon as you put on your clothes." While speaking, the lady activated the divine rune in the room. A glint of coldness rose in Lu Li's eyes. He snorted and said, "Who are you? Believe it or not, I will inform the escorts right away." "Ha ha." The lady was not afraid at all. She said with a grin, "Young Master Lu, don't be angry. I am here to talk about a business deal." "Young Master Lu, do you want to make 1 trillion divine stones?" "Business?" Lu Li seemed to understand. He asked coldly, "Are you trying to bribe me? You want me to fix the matches? Aren't you afraid that I will report you?" "Young Master Lu, you are a smart man." The lady did not mind at all. She sat down, poured herself a cup of tea, and said, "Young Master Lu, do you know the total amount of bets in this casino? It is beyond your imagination. Where is this place? This is the Heaven Emperor sect, the most powerful sect in the world. The Heaven Emperor sect's most important recruitment ceremony is being hosted by someone. Do you think the ceremony can go on without the permission of the Heaven Emperor sect? There is more to it than meets the eye. Young Master Lu, you're smart. I don't think you will do anything rash, right?" Luli shrugged and said, "You have the wrong person. I will not make a deal with you. Off you go." 10 trillion divine stones. The lady raised 10 fingers and added, plus a sovereign artifact, a super skill manual, and 10 female slaves that the Celestial Luster sect has been secretly training. What do you think? "You are rich," Luli exclaimed. He was curious and asked, What do you want me to do? Simple, the lady said with a smile. Young Master Lu, you should know that you cannot make it to the top 10, not even the top 30. We need you to put on a show with us. Every time, you have to struggle your way out. Every time, you almost lose. Then, at the critical moment, we want you to lose. All in all, it is based on your bets. How do you want to maximize your profits? You have invested so much in me. Can you recoup your losses? Luli was confused. 10 trillion divine stones and a sovereign artifact. If he was eliminated in 2 or 3 rounds, could they recoup their investment? Ha. The lady did not hide anything. She said, Young Master Lu, you have no idea how popular you are now. You're a dark horse. People are more than willing to bet on you. Therefore, you are one of the heaviest bets. Do you know how many bets were placed on you in the past 2 days? Luli asked with curiosity. How many? 30 trillion, the lady said. Luli clicked his tongue. A moment later, he lost interest. He shook his head and said, Thank you, young lady, but I cannot lose. I must make it to the top 10 and become a disciple of the Celestial Emperor sect. Do you think you can compete with the status of a disciple of the Celestial Emperor sect? Ha. The lady laughed as if she had heard the funniest joke. She shook her head and said, You can be confident, but you cannot be too conceited. Otherwise, you will lose your life sooner or later. Words are unnecessary. Please. Luli put down the cup of tea. Clearly, he wanted to see her out. The lady did not argue. She stood up slowly. At the door, she suddenly turned around and said with a smile, Young Master Lu, if you are so confident, you can bet on yourself to make it to the top 10. The odds for you to make it to the top 10 are 10,000 times. Okay, I will bet hundreds of billions of divine stones later, Luli said provocatively. Let's see if you have the guts to take the bet. Why not? If you dare to do it, we will take it. The lady threw Luli a provocative look, turned around, activated the divine rune, and left. 10,000 times? If I can make it to the top 10, how many divine stones will that be? Chapter 2667. Luli stayed in closed-door cultivation for a couple of days. When the second round began, he came out. However, he did not place a bet. There was no point in earning some divine stones. If he were to place a bet, it would definitely cause a huge commotion. It would also cause countless people to be on their guard. At that time, the martial art competition would be very troublesome. Divine stones could be used to buy many elixirs and treasures. But precious elixirs could not be bought, nor could holy weapons. If so, what was the point of having so many divine stones? As long as one was powerful enough, divine stones would be easy to get. He could just kill some old demons and divine stones would be rolling in. Therefore, after much consideration, Luli decided not to place any bets. He left the tavern, flew out of the celestial city, and arrived at the north of the city. This time, there was no need for inspection. A team of escorts had already recognized Luli. They let him through at once. Luli flew to the plaza and found a corner to stand in a low-key manner. He did not want to draw attention, but many people were paying attention to him. It was because many people had placed heavy bets on him. Last time, he had suffered so much. This time, he would not be so lucky. Last time, Luli did not perform well. The only thing that could be seen was that he was good at defense. That being said, if he only took hits and did not attack, he would be worn out. As long as he was fast enough or his attacks were ferocious, he could be killed easily. Therefore, this time, most people bet on Luli to lose. Luli was like a tool for them to earn divine stones. How could they not pay attention? After a while, Emperor Rui came back with someone else. The matches resumed. Again, the patriarch came out to make arrangements. When he called out names, the others would go to their respective arenas to fight. The 5,000 became 2,500. This time, there would be more than 1,000 matches. Luli was still at the end of the line, so he had been observing quietly. The 35 are really strong. Luli saw that some of the 35 would go up in the time for one incense stick to burn. Those who went up were so powerful that their opponents would be weakened when they saw them. Usually, they would be defeated within a few moves. Luli, Yutian, number 249. Luli heard his name again. He did not fly up in a hurry. Instead, he waited for his opponent to go up. When he saw that it was a warrior at the middle stage of the fifth tribulation, he was overjoyed. But thinking about it, the previous matches were all arranged according to age and realm. Unless it was those few demon-class experts, the Celestial Emperor's sect probably saw that he was the only peak of the fourth tribulation and gave him some consideration. Damn it, it's over, my godstone. You Tion, you'd better not let me down. If you lose, be careful of your dog head. This is going to be troublesome. Last time, his opponent was a late-stage fifth tribulation cultivator, but he exhausted him to death. Can this mid-stage fifth tribulation cultivator suppress him? You Tion, don't let him get close to you. His body is very strong. Many people were worried. If Lu Li could be paired with a warrior at the peak of the fifth tribulation or a more powerful one at the later stage of the fifth tribulation, then they would be safe. Coupled with a mid-stage fifth tribulation cultivator, no one felt confident. On the other side, Emperor Rue, who was in the private room of the spectator's stand, glanced at the elder who arranged the martial arts competition. That elder immediately smiled and nodded at him. Emperor Rue thought for a moment and transmitted his voice. No need for special care. Just follow the rules. I'm curious, how far can he go? Okay, Emperor Rue, I will remember. That elder nodded. He was indeed biased in this arrangement. He knew very well that Emperor Rue was born in a poor family. Lu Li was the only one at the peak of the fourth tribulation, and he was not famous yet. He had never heard that he was born in a legal person or a big family. Judging by his behavior, he did not seem to be from a rich family. Therefore, this elder gave him special treatment. Emperor Rue said that Lu Li might make it to the top 100. Emperor Rue would be embarrassed if Lu Li couldn't. That was why this elder made special arrangements. There was no suspense about the outcome of the battle. This elder had specially arranged a candidate who was not strong in all aspects. But he was smart. He used his speed to move around and attack from a distance. In order to hide his real strength, Lu Li fought with him for an hour. In the end, Lu Li defeated him at close range. Lu Li was bleeding again. Of course, he did it on purpose. Otherwise, this Tion would not have been able to break through his defense. After he was teleported down, as expected, he heard many curses. Some were cursing him, some were cursing Tion, and many were glaring at him with murderous intent. Those people must have suffered a great loss. Lu Li paid no attention to these people. He continued to watch the battles, focusing on the talented ones who were more popular. It was a pity that many of them didn't show their real strength and defeated their opponents easily. After more than half a day, the battles came to an end. More than 1,000 people were eliminated. This time, they had a rest for 10 days as well. Lu Li went back to the tavern to cultivate. During these 10 days, nobody came to disturb him. He cultivated in peace for 10 days. The third round began. Punk, I advise you not to win this round. As soon as he walked out of the tavern, he received a message. That message was clearly hidden by some special skill. He didn't know where it came from. That person said with a gloomy voice, "This time, many old demons have sold you out." They even placed heavy bets. If you have the guts to win, you will die as soon as you leave the celestial city. Ha ha! Lu Li smiled. He flew up and flew to the north of the city. He was not one to be intimidated. On his way to the north of the city, he received several more messages. It seemed that this time, more people had placed heavy bets. If he won, he would be torn apart as soon as there was a chance. The battles went on, and the spectators went on. This time, for the 35 people were facing off against each other. Both sides demonstrated their best abilities, which attracted many people's attention. So strong. They even have sovereign weapons. After watching the two battles, Lu Li was left speechless. The two people who had won were comparable to ordinary lords. They must be from a major family or the offspring of some powerful demons. Otherwise, they could not have sovereign weapons and such powerful skills. I hope I won't run into someone too strong this time. Lu Li prayed to himself. For hours later, it was his turn. He used psychic power to check his opponent at once. He was relieved after a look. It was a warrior at the later stage of the fifth tribulation realm. He was wearing top-grade relics. He must be a disciple of a major family. His eyes were filled with arrogance. Luli was not worried about this kind of young master. Zhou Jianyang? Ha ha ha. He is a young master of the Zhou family of the Great Forest Dynasty. The Zhou family is good at soul attacks. This time, ha ha ha. Good, good. You lost hundreds of billions of divine stones to me the last 2 times. This time, you will win them back with interest. Young man of the Zhou family, good job. Everyone was in an uproar. Luli was obviously from a poor family. How could he have advanced, enchanted souls? He would be defeated or even killed by a powerful warrior who was proficient in soul skills. Soul attacks? Chapter 2668. Luli and Zhou Jianliang went into the arena. Zhou Jianliang didn't rush to make a move. Instead, he squinted at Luli and said, "Punk, you better give up. Otherwise, if I attack you later and something happens to your soul, it will be too late for regrets." Luli showed just the right amount of fear. After a while, he made up his mind and said, "I will not admit defeat, not even at the cost of my life." "You asked for it." Zhou Jianliang sneered. He took out a flute, which was engraved with intricate patterns. Luli could tell that it was a valuable piece of treasure. Luli was taken aback. This punk knew how to use the law of sound to launch soul attacks as well. "Charge!" Luli shouted. He dashed forward like a sharp sword and took out a heavy saber. He hacked at Zhou Jianliang with a whistling sound. "Light of a grain." Zhou Jianliang sneered. He slapped forward with one hand. Space began to tremble. It was as if a calm lake was surging with waves. Luli was pushed back by the ripples in space. He could not get closer. "Interesting," Luli exclaimed to himself, but he didn't rush to find a way to get closer. Instead, he shouted and rushed forward again and again. Zhou Jianliang didn't use soul attacks. He was like a cat toying with a mouse. Every time Luli got close, Zhou Jianliang would slap him back. Luli charged forward again and again, only to be pushed back again and again. It was as if the two were playing house. The onlookers were getting impatient. Many wished they could go up there and cut Luli into pieces. After the time for 2 incense sticks to burn, Zhou Jianliang felt it was time. He had enough attention. He put the flute to his mouth and began to play. With a pleasant sound, Luli had to admit that Zhou Jianliang had a high level of attainment in music. "I knew it." Soon, Luli sensed a trace of faintly discernible energy sneaking into his body and surging toward his soul. The energy was special. It was not aggressive, and the dragon soul didn't protect its master. Impressive. Luli nodded to himself. Average warriors would be immersed in the flute and fall into the trap without knowing it. He believed that the energy must be useful. It didn't seem to be aggressive, but once it sneaked into Luli's soul, there would be problems. Luli didn't use the soul-devouring skill to devour the energy because he didn't want to alert the enemy. Once he devoured the energy, Zhou Jianliang would definitely sense it. At that time, it would be troublesome to defeat him. After all, he was a disciple of a famous sect. The energy sneaked into Luli's soul, and he cooperated. He became absent-minded, as if he was immersed in the flute music. On the other side, Zhou Jianliang's lips curled into a mocking smile. The sound of the flute continued, but became more rapid. At the same time, Zhou Jianliang was slowly approaching Luli. Everyone outside was overjoyed. It seemed that Luli had been hit. When Zhou Jianliang got closer, he could injure Luli badly in one move, and the outcome would be decided. "This kid is going to lose." A patriarch of the Celestial Emperor sect murmured. Since Emperor Rui had been paying attention to Luli, Luli's fights had attracted some attention. They were all experienced in battles, but Luli didn't have a powerful enchanted soul. He shouldn't be able to withstand this soul attack. "Ha ha!" Emperor Rui laughed at this moment and said, "The Zhou family punk is going to lose." Those of the Celestial Emperor sect nearby were taken aback. They turned to Luli, only to see him trembling and in pain. Clearly, he had been hit by a soul attack. Many patriarchs were confused, but they didn't dare to ask. Emperor Rue must have his reasons since he had said so. How could the others question him? They could only use psychic power to check on Lu Li. Someone's psychic power was strong enough to sense the situation in Lu Li's soul. He could tell that Lu Li's soul was in a mess. He must be under a soul attack. Lu Li's enchanted soul did not move. All signs suggested that Lu Li had been hit and it was serious. Zhou Jinliang thought so as well. He was thousands of feet away from Lu Li, and he could reach Lu Li in the time for one breath. He was playing the flute in one hand while he took out a dagger in the other, ready to wound Lu Li in one move. Whoosh! He sped up all of a sudden. He approached Lu Li in a blur and stabbed at Lu Li's chest with the dagger. His dagger was a fragment of a holy weapon that had been refined by generations of powerful warriors in his family for many years. It was extremely sharp. Buzzing right at that moment, Lu Li opened his eyes all of a sudden. His eyes were filled with violence and cruelty. He was like a ferocious beast, which made Zhou Jinliang's soul tremble. Just now, Lu Li's soul was in a mess. How come he could open his eyes now? Zhou Jinliang could not figure it out, but he had no time to think. A huge hand reached out like lightning and grabbed his neck. Another hand hacked at his arm. Zhou Jinliang felt the pain in his arm, and the dagger was knocked away. Then Lu Li moved his fist and punched at Zhou Jinliang's head. Buzzing, Zhou Jinliang was not a playboy without any actual combat experience. Another treasure appeared in his hand. It was a black cylinder. When the cylinder was opened, black steel needles kept shooting out, aiming at Lu Li's chest like pear blossoms in a storm. Lu Li didn't care. He had released his dragon wrestling skill and heaven armor skill. Could the iron needles kill him? He swung his fist and smashed at Zhou Jinliang's head with 70% of his strength. He only used 70% of his strength because he was afraid that he might kill Zhou Jinliang in one move. Boom! Even though he only used 70% of his strength, and there was a faint yellow glow on Zhou Jinliang's face, which should be some kind of defensive skill, Zhou Jinliang's face was covered with blood, and he was seeing stars. Toot! 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 At the same time, his iron needles had reached Lu Li's chest. Half of the needles went in and could not go any further. Lu Li felt a piercing pain. He swung his fists in rage and attacked. Boom! 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 In an instant, Zhou Jinliang's head was cracked after dozens of punches. He knew that if Lu Li went on like this, his head would explode. Zhou Jinliang shouted, "I admit defeat." It all happened so fast that many people outside didn't have time to react. When Zhou Jinliang shouted the word, people inside and outside the city were in an uproar. Countless people cursed loudly. Many people were surging with killing intent, but even more people were bewildered. How come Lu Li could turn the tables in an instant when he looked like he was dying? Zhou Jinliang had failed. Was he not hit by any soul attack? Or he had the ability to dissolve Zhou Jinliang's soul attack in an instant. Many people understood at once. They were fooled by Lu Li. Lu Li had successfully fooled Zhou Jinliang, and even some patriarchs of the Heaven Emperor sect. Buzzing, Lu Li and Zhou Jinliang were teleported out. Lu Li's chest was still covered with iron needles, but he had no time to worry about that. Chapter 2669. Of the more than 5,000 people, only one was at the peak of the fourth tribulation, and he had won 3 times in a row. Most importantly, countless people had bet heavily on him, and all of them had lost. Lu Li couldn't keep a low profile, even if he wanted to. It would be easier if there weren't so many people betting on him. But with so many people losing, Lu Li couldn't keep a low profile, even if he wanted to. Lu Li didn't care anymore. What was done was done. He had nothing else to say. He had to fight his way up. Whether he could make it to the top 10 or not would be up to fate. Lu Li was right. In the next 2 matches, he had to fight against 2 warriors at the later stage of the 5th tribulation. The 2 didn't underestimate Lu Li and tried their best. Lu Li was forced to use soul attacks to defeat the 2. He had to resort to soul attacks. After Lu Li defeated the 2 warriors, he became a thorn in many people's eyes. Many more people had lost Godstones, but someone as well. Many people believed that Lu Li was hiding his real strength, so they bet on him. There were 5 matches in total. At first, there were more than 5,000 people. Half of them were eliminated each time. After 5 matches, there were only about 100 people left. One more match, and they would enter the semifinals. Apart from Luli and 3 others, the rest were all at the later stage of the 5th tribulation or the peak of the 5th tribulation. Every one of them had unique skills. It was not luck that could make it out of 5,000 people. They must have something up their sleeves. After another round of matches, there would be 70 or 80 people left. There would be some lucky ones who could make it to the semifinals. Luli rested for a couple of days before he started another round of matches. This time, he ran out of luck. His opponent was a warrior at the peak of the 5th tribulation, clearly a disciple of a famous family. He must have some valuable treasures. What made Luli feel relieved was that he didn't run into the 35 people who had the highest number of votes. Wrong. There were less than 35 now. Some of the 35 had encountered each other, and 13 of them were eliminated. Only 22 were left. The 22 were still the most popular candidates, especially Wang Ningxue, Guan Qinxiu, and Hu Shiming. They had been determined to be selected. His opponent was Chun Jiala. He was young, only about 800 years old. It was said that he was not powerful because he might have been forcibly elevated by his family. Luli had seen this man's fights, but since his opponents were not strong, he couldn't find out more about Chun Jiala. He was about to enter the top 100. Luli could not afford to be careless. He took out his soft sword. His body floated over like a ghost, and he took the initiative to attack. Chun Jiala seemed to have already known that he knew how to use soul attacks. He quickly retreated, and at the same time, took out a giant axe and fiercely chopped out. At that moment, Luli felt the sky was darkening. He saw a ray of white light tearing apart the void. It was so fast that before Luli could react, it had already landed on him. Boom! Luli was smashed away. The darkness disappeared, and the view returned to normal. Luli was taken aback. He had never seen Chun Jiala use such a move before. Clearly, Chun Jiala was afraid of Luli. As soon as they started, Chun Jiala used his trump card. Luli released Dragon Wrestle and Heaven Armor to protect himself. The attacks could only scratch his skin, not inflict any serious damage on him. With a sway of his body, he released more than 100 doppelgangers and continued to rush towards Chun Jiala. Rip! The sky darkened again. That ray of light was still coming. Luli could not dodge it and was smashed away. His doppelgangers dashed towards Chun Jiala, but the latter ignored them. You have some skills. Luli nodded. Still, he didn't use any other skills. He was smashed back again and again. His wounds seemed to be getting worse. That being said, they were all superficial wounds that didn't require treatment. What other skills do you have? Use them all, or you will not be able to get close to me. Chun Jiala said coldly. Luli, on the other hand, didn't move. He said with a smile, "If this is all you can do, then you cannot defeat me. My self-healing ability is very strong. Come on, what other moves do you have? Use them all at once." Both were waiting for the other's move. Luli was not in a hurry. His defense was strong. Average moves could not hurt him. He could afford to waste time. Luli could afford it, but Chun Jiala was losing patience. After some thoughts, Chun Jiala attacked Luli. He made several moves, and Luli was smashed back again and again. Chun Jiala, on the other hand, shortened the distance. When he was 2 miles away from Luli, Chun Jiala used another move. Swish! Luli felt the sky darkened again. A ray of light was coming. At first, he didn't feel anything. He thought it was the same as before. But when the ray of light came, he felt something was off. There were rays of light coming from the left, right, and back. The latter 3 were clearly different from the previous ones. There was a black air in front of the 3 rays of light. Clearly, they were special moves. Luli's defense was strong, but he didn't want to fight head-on. What if Chun Jiala had more powerful moves? Once Luli was injured, he could be defeated easily. For the first time, Chun Jiala used the Honesty Talisman, but he didn't do it directly. Instead, he hit it in the ray of sword light. Chun Jiala swung his saber 3 times. Each move contained an Honesty Talisman. Boom, boom, boom. The 3 rays of sword light collided with the 3 rays of light, resulting in a violent explosion. Even space was torn apart. The shockwave caused ripples in the arena, and a glare rose up. The darkness disappeared. However, Luli made several moves with his saber at the moment. 3 rays of sword light whooshed toward Chunjala. Chunjala was taken aback. He took out a huge shield and put it in front of him. Boom, boom, boom. Chunjala was smashed away. His blood was boiling and his face was ghastly pale. That shield was almost shattered. He didn't know that Lu Li's attack could be this powerful. Not only Chunjala, but many onlookers were shocked as well. In the previous fights, Lu Li had relied on either his strong body or soul attacks. This was the first time he used such a move. They didn't expect it to be so powerful. This punk has been concealing his abilities. Some people were swearing. If they had known that Lu Li was so powerful, they would have bet on him. They would have made a fortune by now. Lu Li had set them up. Emperor Rue, you really have a good eye for heroes. A patriarch of the Celestial Emperor's sect walked to Emperor Rue and said, "This punk has been concealing his abilities. I think he still has many tricks up his sleeves. I think he will win this round. He will have no problem making it to the top 100. Emperor Rue, you are right. It is a pity that his realm is not high enough." Emperor Rue exclaimed, "There are too many talents in this year's recruitment ceremony. I don't think it will be easy for this punk to make it to the top 10 or even the top 20. If he can reach the 5th tribulation, then there is still hope." Yes. Chapter 2670. Just as the patriarch of the Celestial Emperor's sect said, Lu Li defeated Chunjala with difficulty. Lu Li didn't even use the horn. If he had, he would have one. Using the innocent talisman, Lu Li blew up Chunjala's shield. Lu Li's attacks could hurt Chunjala. On the other hand, Chunjala's attacks could not injure Lu Li. The result was clear. Lu Li successfully made it to the next round, which made a group of people hate him even more. Many people didn't believe it and thought that Lu Li would definitely lose. So, they kept betting on Lu Li to lose. Many people were already broke. Lu Li was still watching the battle from the square. Now that there were fewer people and everyone was an elite, it was very likely that he would encounter the remaining people. As such, he had to carefully observe everyone's battles and try to figure out their strengths and weaknesses. The fights ended in half a day. 78 people made it to the next stage. The Celestial Emperor's sect didn't continue to fight. The Celestial Emperor's sect chose the winners. Nobody dared to cheat since Emperor Rue was here. 100 people were chosen. The Celestial Emperor's sect gave each one of them a reward of top-level pellets. In the end, the Elder announced that the semi-finals would be held in half a month. At that time, it would not be held here, but at the northern side of the heavenly immortal peak. The Elder also said that at that time, their sovereign might personally come. Master! Many people's eyes glowed. The master of the Celestial Emperor's sect was not the most powerful one in the Celestial Emperor's sect. That being said, he was among the top 10 in the endless ruins of gods. He was also the emperor of the Celestial Emperor dynasty and had supreme power. The rules of the semi-finals changed often. Nobody knew what they were. The patriarch didn't say anything. He only said that they would find out at the peak of Celestial Emperor in half a month. Lu Li and the others came back. As soon as Lu Li came back, he cultivated to build up his strength for the semi-finals. Lu Li wanted to try for the last half a month as well. He wanted to see if he could master that soul skill. If he could, the success rate would be higher. Buzzing. 5 days later, the inhibition formations outside glowed. Lu Li frowned. He did not open the inhibition formations. Instead, he used the trace of Tao to sense the outside. Soon, he pulled a long face. It was that girl again, the one who tried to bribe Lu Li to stop the rigging last time. Lu Li didn't open the rune. Instead, he asked, "Young lady, what are you doing here?" "Young Master Lu, I'm here on my master's orders to deliver a gift. I want to make friends with you," the young lady said with a smile. Lu Li thought about it for a while. He opened the shield and let the young lady in. Then, he closed the shield and said coldly, "Young lady, I have made things clear last time. If you're still going to say the same thing, then don't waste your breath. Young Master Lu, don't be angry. The woman smiled as she took out a space ring and said, Young Master Lu, I really came here to give you a gift this time. Here is a super strong defensive battle armor, a top-grade soul-calming pill, and a pill that can increase your combat power for a short time. There's also a type of venom that you can fuse with your weapon. As long as your opponent bleeds, the venom will immediately enter their body and mess up their divine power. Oh, Luli was surprised. Then he understood immediately. He said coldly, You want me to keep winning? That way, you can make more divine stones? Yes. The lady did not disguise her intention. Young Master Lu, you want to be among the top 10, and we want to make divine stones as well. This is a win-win situation, isn't it? We can use such pellets in a competition. We can use poison. Luli asked back. If he broke the rules and was found out by the Heaven Emperor sect, he would be disqualified. We're going to go to seek justice. Ha ha ha. The lady laughed. She said, Young Master Lu, aren't you being too naive? Many people have been using pellets to improve combat abilities. Haven't you noticed? As long as the poison is not too vicious and does not harm lives or souls, we don't care. This will only mess up divine energy. That is normal. Understood. I have it now. Thank you. Luli nodded. The lady stood up and said with a smile, Young Master Lu, I wish you all the best. The lady left. Luli took over the interspatial ring. There was a set of armor, 2 bottles of pellets with different uses, and a type of liquid. Luli took out the armor. It was black and covered with runes and some mysterious characters. It was an ancient armor. It must be a powerful piece of treasure. Luli took out the armor at once. He didn't care whether it was useful or not. It would be worthwhile if he could survive one attack at a critical moment. The 2 pellets were of no use to Lu Li, and the venom was even more useless. Lu Li continued to cultivate. Soon, 15 days passed. Lu Li came out. Many people were flying toward the north. Lu Li followed them. He was not worried that someone would try to assassinate him along the way. There were patrols everywhere. Anyone who dared to do anything would be considered an enemy of the Heaven Emperor sect. Anyone who provoked the Heaven Emperor sect near the Celestial City would face death no matter who it was. Therefore, even though Lu Li had received many threats, he didn't mind. The Peak of Immortal was 30,000 miles to the north of the city. It had always been the practice ground of the Heaven Emperor sect. Many disciples of the Heaven Emperor sect would compete here. Many people had gathered here as well. There was no end to the crowd. There must be at least millions or even tens of millions of people. A huge mountain rose up to the sky. The surrounding area was a plain. At the moment, to the west and east of the Peak of Immortal, there were 2 huge halos. It seemed that the competition would be held inside the 2 halos. Why are there 2 halos? Luli was confused. 2 halos for a competition of 100 people? Also, the 2 halos were too large. Each of the halos had a radius of tens of thousands of miles. Wouldn't it be too large for 2 people to compete inside? Luli was not the only one who couldn't figure it out. Many people nearby were confused as well. Many people were discussing about it. Many people were looking at the Peak of Immortal, waiting for the Heaven Emperor sect to reveal the answer. Outsiders were not allowed to go up the Peak of Immortal. Lu Li and the others were participants, so they had the right to go up. Lu Li went to the peak. In addition to patriarchs of the Heaven Emperor sect, there were many young warriors, at least hundreds of them. The young masters were extraordinary, and the young ladies were beautiful. They were all young and at high realms. There were more than 30 of them who had reached the Lord realm. So many lords. They really are the most powerful sect in the world. Lu Li exclaimed to himself. That being said, there were so many lords in the Endless Ruins. As the most powerful sect in the Endless Ruins, warriors at the Lord realm were nothing to them. They might have many at the Emperor realm. I must join the Heaven Emperor sect. I must. Chapter 2671. The 100 warriors had arrived a long time ago. There were over 80 males and more than a dozen females. All of the females were disciples of major families. They were all extraordinary. They were not delicate girls. They were experienced in battles. At the very least, they had blood on their hands. Emperor Hung, Emperor Wu, and Emperor Rui are here. A moment later, they heard a shout from the distance. It was so loud that millions of people felt their eardrums hurt. Many people on the peak of Fairy dropped to their knees. Naturally, Lu Li and the others dropped to one knee as well. This time, the Celestial Emperor sect had sent 3 important people, 3 at the Great Emperor realm. Whoosh, 3 rainbow bridges extended over. Then, 3 super chariots flew over. The chariots were all pulled by beasts. Escorts and maids followed behind. It was a grand show. Many people were excited. 3 low-level warriors of the Celestial Emperor sect were here. Would the master of the Celestial Emperor sect really come? That was one of the most important people in the Endless Ruins, a Saint King. Luli was eager as well. He had never seen a Saint King in his life. Only the Blood Evil King almost reached the Saint King realm. There was not a single Saint King at the 3rd heaven, which was the peak of warriors. The 3 chariots arrived at the peak of Fairy. The 3 of them got off and entered a private room that had been prepared. Luli did not use psychic power. He just glanced at them. Emperor Rui had seen them before. The other 2 were middle-aged men. They did not have strong chi and energy. But one look, and one could tell that they were extraordinary. There was an invisible force field about them. Emperor Hung was old-fashioned. His black hair was neatly combed. His eyes were like that of a wolf, frightening. Emperor Wu was a strong man. His body alone was suffocating. He had a long beard and red hair. His eyes were bulging, filled with ferocity. He was the kind of person who would kill at the slightest disagreement. When the 3 of them were seated, Patriarch Gu, who was the host of the preliminary round, flew up and said, "Since our master has something to deal with, he left the peak of Heaven Emperor a few days ago. Therefore, we have invited 3 emperors to be witnesses. Now, let the semi-finals begin." What people were discussing among themselves. Many people felt it was a pity. So many people were here because they wanted to see the master of the Celestial Emperor sect. This was like meeting the face of the heavens. It was something that could be bragged about for a lifetime. Elder Gu pressed his hand down, and the surrounding voices gradually died down. Only then did Elder Gu say, "After the discussion of the elders and the sect master, we have decided to make the semi-finals a free-for-all. Chaotic battle. Countless people were greatly astonished. How could this chaotic battle be like this? Could it be that a group of people were swarming together to fight? How were they going to assess their strength? How would the ranking be determined? Many people wouldn't be convinced if they were judged casually. This is troublesome. Lu Li was troubled as well. A melee like this would be troublesome. His realm was the lowest, and he would be the first target. If he was besieged by several warriors, he would be defeated even if he had 3 heads and 6 arms. In addition, although the 2 fighting arenas below were very big, if they were all within the light barrier, then it would be somewhat difficult to display their abilities. There would be no chance to escape even if they wanted to. Silence. Elder Gu shouted in a deep voice. This time, the 100 participants will be divided into 2 groups. Each side will have 50 participants, and the 50 participants will be divided into 10 groups. Each group will have 5 participants, and all of them will draw lots to decide who will be the winner. Of the 10 groups, only 3 will make it to the next round. There will be 6 groups in total. The 3 groups that can last until the end will advance to the top 30. After that, it will be the finals. Elder Gu added after a pause, same rules. If you can't stand it any longer, you can admit defeat and you will be teleported out at once. There are 3 emperors here. Anyone who kills someone with malicious intent will be disqualified. After Elder Gu explained a lot, everyone understood the rules, and their expressions became solemn. This competition was not only about combat abilities, but also about teamwork. Most importantly, luck. It was simple. For example, Guan Qianxiu and Wang Ningxue were the most popular among the 22. If 5 of them were in the same group, then they would have a higher chance of winning. Take Lu Li as an example. If he was in the same group with 4 warriors who were not that strong, then he wouldn't have to fight. He could just admit defeat. There would be 5 people in each group. Once someone was dragged down, for example, by one move, then there would be only 4 people left. Naturally, their combat abilities would be compromised. What was more, this competition was divided into two battlefields. If there were only strong warriors on one side, then the chance of advancing to the next round would be greatly reduced. Everything was out of control. Luck was the key. Ha. Hearing all the discussions, including the 100 participants, Rue D suddenly spoke. His voice was not loud, but it was heard by everyone's ears. I know many of you will say that this rule is not fair. It is possible that a particularly strong participant will be paired with 4 weaker ones, and that person will lose the chance to advance. That is to say, luck may be more important than strength. What I want to tell you is, luck is a part of strength. If a person wants to rise to the top, it is not enough to rely on comprehension, hard work, and talent. Sometimes, luck is very important. I can assure you that there is no shady dealings. The three of us are here to ensure absolute fairness and justice. Rue D's words were very convincing, and the discussions around them were much quieter. Lu Li and the 100 other participants were all nervous. Even Guan Qinxiu and the others were a little nervous. If they were paired with the 4 weakest teammates, then they definitely wouldn't be able to advance. Okay, divide into groups. Patriarch Gu said. He took out some golden beads and said, "These beads were made by Emperor Hung himself. Every single one of them is covered with runes. Those who are not at the Emperor realm cannot see the numbers inside. You are free to choose. Those with the same number will be your teammates." Whoosh! Patriarch Gu threw the 100 golden beads into the air. At the same time, he waved his hand. The beads lined up in the air and floated there. Many people used psychic power to check. Everyone realized that they could not use psychic power to look inside the beads. Many lords and even Emperor boundary level experts who were watching could not see through the beads. Emperor Hung made the beads himself. If they could be seen through so easily, then Emperor Heng's reputation would be undeserved. Everyone was relieved. It seemed that there was no way to cheat. It was all up to their luck. Out of instinct, Lu Li used the trace of Tao. He realized that he could somehow sense the inside of the beads. He was overjoyed. In this case, he could choose his teammates freely. If Guan Qinxiu and several other super powerful warriors were in the same team, and Lu Li could choose the same beads, then his chances of advancing would be greatly increased. What? All of a sudden, Lu Li was confused. The rules of the tournament seemed to be made for him. Was Emperor Rue helping him in secret? But the beads were made by Emperor Hung. Even if Emperor Rue liked Lu Li, he could not have asked another Emperor Realm warrior to help him cheat. Whatever. Chapter 2672. Numbers were to be picked one by one. One by one, they would go up and pick at will. They were not allowed to crush the numbers after they picked. They could only open the numbers after everyone had made their choice. Lu Li had been secretly sensing that the Rue Emperor might notice that he was cheating. But the 3 Emperor-level warriors did not say anything. Lu Li didn't care. He had been paying attention to the most powerful ones and the numbers they picked. Unfortunately, the ones before him were not in the same group. They were in different groups. Lu Li was in the middle. He could not tell others to pick first. Therefore, if the ones before him were not in the same group, he would have to pick someone as his comrade. Okay. Wang Mingxue, who was a few numbers ahead of Lu Li, picked the same number as Hu Shiming. Lu Li was delighted. At least there were 2 powerful warriors in this group, which meant the chances of winning would be higher. If there could be 1 or 2 more powerful warriors joining in, then it would be a piece of cake. That will be the 7th group. It was Lu Li's turn. He flew up and pretended to take a look. Then, he grabbed a golden bead accurately and flew down. Inside the private room, after Lu Li grabbed the bead, the Rue Emperor said with a smile, The 7th group. Do you believe me now? This punk is strange. Emperor Hung was surprised. He was confident about the golden bead he made. How could a warrior at the peak of the 4th tribulation see through it? This made him feel a little embarrassed. Emperor Hung was a hot-tempered man. He snorted and said, "Since this punk can see through the golden bead, then he must have cheated. Disqualify him." No, even the Rue Emperor said nothing. Emperor Hung waved his hand and said, I made the golden bead. He, a warrior at the peak of the fourth tribulation, can see through it. That is his capability. If others are capable, they can choose their own teammates. The Rue Emperor nodded with a smile and said, "We set the rules. Others can play tricks within the rules. That is their own capability. In a real fight, no matter what tricks you use, the winner will live and the loser will die." Emperor Hung still didn't like Lu Li. He snorted and said, "I would like to see how far this punk can go. If he is able to become a disciple of our heavenly emperor's sect, I will beat him up whenever I have the time. This emperor hates this kind of opportunistic scum the most." Emperor Hung and Emperor Rue looked at each other and shook their heads with a bitter smile. This was the temper of a martial emperor. He was straightforward and a martial arts fanatic. He hated villains who played tricks and ploys the most. If Lu Li were to fall into his hands, the consequences would be dire. Everyone had made their choice. They all crushed the bead at the same time, revealing the small cards inside. Lu Li looked at them and was relieved. Sure enough, there was a 7 written on it. His senses were right. He looked around immediately. He saw that Wang Ningxue and Hu Shiming were indeed holding the number 7 token. He was overjoyed. He looked at the rest of the people and soon found his other 2 teammates. One of them was actually one of the 22 people. The other one was slightly weaker. He wasn't very famous, but he was also at the peak of the 5 tribulations. Lu Li noticed that the others were looking at him as well. Their eyes were filled with depression and disgust. Clearly, they thought Lu Li would drag them down. That being said, there were 3 powerful warriors in this team. Their overall fighting capacity was quite good. Everyone was satisfied. "Get ready," Patriarch Gu said. "Each team has an hour to get ready. After an hour, the first 10 teams will enter the arena on the left, and the last 10 teams will enter the arena on the right." Patriarch Gu's intention was clear. He wanted the teams to get familiar with each other so that they could come up with strategies. After all the opponents were clear. There were only 45 of them. They could know each other at a glance. "Team 7, come here." Hu Shiming lived up to his name. He was a tall and sturdy man with a full beard and wore battle armor. He shouted, and everyone gathered around him. He took out a pagoda which floated in the air and said, "If you trust me, come with me." The other teams nearby took out their interspatial artifacts as well. Lu Li, Wang Ningxue, and the others all followed Hu Shiming into the pagoda without hesitation. This was the peak of a mortal. Hu Shiming wouldn't act rashly even if he had more courage. What was more, Wang Ningxue and the other 2 clearly had powerful backgrounds. They were not afraid of Hu Shiming's dirty tricks. There was a huge hall inside, and it was rather clean. Hu Shiming took out some spirit fruits and threw them on the table. Time is of the essence, so old we shall not be particular about these formalities. Let's introduce ourselves. I believe everyone knows Miss Ningxue and I, right? Lu Li nodded. One of the other 2 looked like a scholar. He cupped his fists and said, "I am Jun Tianyi. My nickname is Soul Hooking Scholar." "So you're a Soul Hooking Scholar?" Hu Shiming nodded and said, "I heard that you are good at seducing noble ladies. You are quite famous at the Deer Hu dynasty." Wang Ningxue's expressions were clouded. She didn't seem to have a good impression of Jun Tianyi. Jun Tianyi smiled in an unrestrained manner and said, "My name is Soul Hooking Scholar, not Seductive Scholar. Those are just rumors spread by my enemies. I, Jun Tianyi, am upright. Their mouths are on other people's bodies. They can say whatever they want." The other one cupped his fists and said, "I am Gu Shanxiu. My family is at the Celestial Emperor dynasty." Gu Shanxiu seemed to be a man of few words and was introverted. It was Lu Li's turn. Lu Li was about to introduce himself when Hu Shiming waved his hand and said, "You don't have to. Lu Li, you're the dark horse of this year's recruitment ceremony. I have an uncle who lost many godstones because of you." Lu Li touched his nose and cupped his fists. Hu Shiming said again, "I don't care if we have any grudges against each other in the past. We're on the same boat now. If we fail, none of us can enter the Celestial Emperor's sect. So, I hope we can cooperate sincerely and not hide anything. What do you say?" Jun Tian Yi was the first to express his opinion. He nodded and said, "Brother who is right. We must cooperate sincerely or we will all be eliminated. I will cooperate with you." Wang Ningxue nodded and said, "Okay." Gu Shanxiu didn't say anything. Lu Li nodded as well. They were all powerful warriors, and it was not his place to speak. Hu Shiming put on a smile and said, "Tell us about your skills. Let's see how we can cooperate." Hu Shiming's defense and offense were strong. Wang Ningxue's footwork was amazing. Jun Tianye's soul attacks were impressive, and Gu Shanxiu was well-balanced in all aspects. As for Lu Li, they automatically ignored him because his realm was too low. Hu Shiming thought for a while and said, "How about this? Gu Shanxiu and I will attack from the front. Lady Ningxue will use her footwork to disturb the enemies. Seductive Scholar will use his soul attacks to assist. Well, Lu Li, play it by ear." Chapter 2673. Hu Shiming began to analyze their opponents after they came up with a strategy. Hu Shiming and the others had already had someone analyze the 100 people for them. Basically, they had a clear understanding of all the powerful warriors. Hu Shiming wasn't the only one. Even Wang Ningxue and Heavenly Leaf were aware of their opponent's situation. Lu Li exclaimed to himself how nice it was to be a big family. In order to send their disciples to the Celestial Emperor's sect, they had gone through so much trouble. The Celestial Emperor's sect was formed by many clans. Many of these clans weren't members of the Celestial Emperor's sect, but because they sent their disciples in and one of their disciples managed to become an emperor-ranked expert, the clans slowly integrated into the Celestial Emperor's sect. The rules of the Celestial Emperor's sect did not forbid the infiltration of families. That being said, once a family joined the Celestial Emperor's sect, they must put the interests of the sect first. If he betrayed them, not only would he be miserable, but his entire family would be miserable as well. The most powerful sect in the world. No family wanted to infiltrate the Celestial Emperor's sect. As long as they could control the Celestial Emperor's sect, they would become one of the most influential families in the endless ruins of gods. That was why every recruitment ceremony was so lively. That was also why the Celestial Emperor's sect could prosper all the time. Fresh blood was coming in, and they were all top talents. With the resources of the Celestial Emperor's sect, more powerful warriors were born. Hu Shiming had a basic understanding of the situation of the 45 people here. He had also carefully analyzed them. They felt that there were 3 teams here that would be their formidable opponents, because these 3 teams' members were all very strong. Hu Shiming thought about it and said, "How about we defeat one of the 3 teams first? We have to strike first. If we could defeat one of the teams, we will be in the top 3. No, no, Wang Ningxue and Jun Tianyi said at the same time. Wang Ningxue thought about it, but said nothing. Jun Tianyi said to Wang Ningxue, "We must keep a low profile when we go in. Don't make the first move. Otherwise, others will take advantage of us. Given our strength, any team that comes to us will not have an easy time. As long as we stay calm, we will win." Wang Ningxue nodded. Hu Shiming thought about it and nodded. "I was being rash. Okay, we will do as you say. We will not stand out." Lu Li and his team were not so lucky. They had more powerful warriors on their side, and their opponents were stronger. If they were to make enemies everywhere they went, it would be very easy for them to be attacked from all sides. At that time, no matter how strong they were, they would die on the spot. Lu Li said nothing, and neither did Gu Shanxiu. It was Hu Shiming and the other 2 talking. However, the 3 of them were not mediocre. They had no problems with strategy and tactics. Everything else depended on luck. Soon, an hour had passed. Lu Li and the rest of the teams came out. When the time was up, Patriarch Gu shouted, "Let's go in." Swish, swish, swish. The 100 people split into 2 groups and rushed towards the left and right side of the arena respectively. The light barriers on both sides also opened, and everyone flew in. Lu Li and the other 4 gathered together and found a corner. The 5 of them looked around vigilantly. The other 9 teams came in as well, and each took a corner. The light barrier lit up, and Patriarch Gu's voice came out. "Okay, let the fight begin." As soon as Patriarch Gu finished his words, the atmosphere became tense. The 10 teams were all on guard, but nobody made the first move. Clearly, they didn't want to be too high profile in case they became the target of public criticism. Luli glanced over to the other 9 teams and focused on 3 of them: the second group, the 4th group, and the 10th group. The 3 groups had good comprehensive abilities. Among them, the 4th group was the strongest because everyone in this group was at the peak of the 5th tribulation. Guan Xinxiu was in this group, and the other 2 were among the 22. They were also the most likely to make it to the top 10. Guan Xinxiu and his team received the most attention as well. The 2 teams on both sides had been on guard for fear that they would launch a surprise attack. There was no sound inside the light barrier. Nobody moved. They just looked around. Ah ha ha. Guan Xinxiu was wearing a white armor. His face was as fair as jade. He was an elegant young master. A long sword appeared in his hand. He waved it around and said, "Why aren't you moving? Are you going to keep wasting time like this? If so, then let's make an example." With that said, Guan Xinxiu made his move. He transformed into a blur and dashed toward a team next to him. His 4 comrades moved as well. Like 4 ferocious beasts, they dashed toward the team next to him. Charge! Right at that moment, 2 teams nearby moved at the same time. Their target was Guan Xinxiu's team. In other words, there were 3 teams attacking the 4th group at the same time. Lu Li and the others were taken aback. The 3 teams were working together? Could it be that they had discussed this beforehand? If the 3 teams worked together, then none of the teams would be able to defeat them? Boom, boom, boom. The fight began. Even though Guan Xinxiu and his team were surrounded by 15 people, they didn't panic. They fought back with all their might. Guan Xinxiu didn't expect that he would be set up. He was so angry that he used his ultimate move at once and knocked one of them out. Should we go and take advantage of the situation? Hu Shiming's eyes glowed. He took the initiative to talk to Lu Li and the other 3. He said, "If we go as well, Guan Xinxiu's team will not be able to handle it. We will have 1 less enemy." But Wang Ningxue and Jun Tianyi were tempted. This was a once-in-a-blue-moon opportunity. If the 4th group was eliminated, then their chances of winning would increase. Never mind. Don't do anything rash. Wang Ningxue thought about it and said, "Let's go and attack the team nearby. Let them be in chaos. I think some teams will try to take advantage of the situation, and some will go and attack the other 3 teams. I am afraid that they will work together to suppress everyone. So, let's stay still and defeat the team nearby first." Lady Wang is right. Lu Li said, "It is too chaotic over there. If we go there, we will be in trouble. The teams nearby are not strong. Let's eliminate this team first." Okay. Eventually, Hu Shiming followed Lu Li's advice. He resisted the urge to attack Guan Xinxiu and his team. He shouted and took the lead to charge toward the team on the left. That team had been secretly watching over here. Seeing Hu Shiming coming, they smiled bitterly and made up their minds. Wang Ningxue was the second to rush out. Her body technique was indeed very powerful. Her whole body floated like a butterfly. She went around the back of the team and started to attack. Jun Tianyi and Gu Shanxiu followed Hu Shiming, and Lu Li was at the rear. Almost at the same time, the other teams began to fight as well. The 2nd and 10th teams found the remaining 2 teams and began to attack. Boom, 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 boom. Chapter 2674. The battle was very intense, but because everyone was very restrained, no one died. As the situation became more and more serious, everyone was getting serious. Nobody could guarantee that nobody would die. Of the 10 teams, 3 relatively stronger teams were attacking the other 3 teams. The remaining 4 teams were fighting 1 against 3. Guan Xinxiu and his team were strong, 5 against 15. Even though all 5 were injured, none of them were seriously injured. They were able to withstand the attacks of the 15. On the other hand, 3 of the 15 had been injured and had lost the ability to fight. If you don't leave now, then don't blame me for being harsh. Guan Qinxiu brandished his sword, enveloping his entire body in it. After blocking several attacks, he roared in rage. He had never imagined that there would be 3 teams that would dare to join forces to ambush them. He thought that he was the strongest among all of them. Not only did he want to get into the Celestial Emperor's sect, he wanted to get in first place and make a name for himself in the Celestial Emperor's sect. Eventually, he would become the leader of the Celestial Emperor's sect. He had a grand plan, and he didn't want to stop here. He would be too ashamed to go back to his family. Everyone in his family had high hopes for him. Everyone in his city knew that he had come to the recruitment ceremony. Before he came, he had boasted that he would make it to the top 5 or he wouldn't go back. Therefore, he was enraged. Now that the battle was going on, if he didn't defeat the more than 10 teams soon, the other teams would come and take advantage of the situation. Once one of the 3 strong teams came, they would be in trouble. Boom! Lu Li and his team had it easy. Hu Shiming was fending off attacks from the other side. Wang Ningxue was distracting him. Heaven's Leaf was releasing soul attacks. Gu Shanxiu was helping Hu Shiming, and Lu Li was at the back releasing honest talismans. One of the opponents was already badly injured. He knew he had no chance of making it to the next round, so he admitted defeat and teleported away in case he was accidentally killed. Seeing that Hu Shiming was about to attack the second person, Lu Li said to the others at the same time, "The 4 of them are not strong. If we attack with all we have, we can defeat them in an instant. So, we don't have to rush. We can play with them slowly and at the same time, observe the situation and react accordingly. If we defeat them now, who will we attack later?" Lu Li's words made Hu Shiming, Wang Ningxue, Jun Tianyi, and the others ponder. Their attacks were weakened. After a while, they all agreed with Lu Li. Just as Lu Li said, if they defeated these people now, who would they attack next? Attack Guan Qinxiu and the others? At this moment, Guan Qinxiu had gone berserk and seemed to be going all out. If they attacked them, even if they could win, they would definitely have to pay a price. At that time, others might be able to take advantage of the chaos. If he didn't attack Guan Qinxiu, then who should he attack? Attacking anyone right now would not be a good thing. It would be easy for both sides to be injured. It was better to stall for time and watch the Tigers fight. The 4 players on the other side had already given up all hope. Just as they were about to try their best to drag 2 people down with them, they realized that Lu Li and Hu Shiming's attack had suddenly weakened. Although it was very aggressive and many of its moves looked very scary, it was just for show and did not have much offensive power. Wang Ningxue floated around like a ghost. It seemed like the battle on their side was very intense. The 4 of them were relieved. They looked at each other and cooperated with Lu Li and the others. They released some attractive attacks as well. The 2 sides were clashing. Lu Li wanted to stall for time and watch the Tigers fight. Naturally, the 4 of them wanted to stall for time to recover and find chance. Therefore, the 2 sides agreed without prior consultation. The fight was quite lively. Some of them were covered in blood, but those were only superficial wounds. None of them were hurt. "Piss off," Guan Qinxiu shouted. In an instant, he swung his sword and generated thousands of sword shadows. The thousands of sword shadows condensed into one sword shadow in midair. It hit one of them and pierced into his abdomen. Boom! That sword shadow exploded in his abdomen. Countless small swords flew out. At this moment, he felt his abdomen, chest, and back were all pierced by the small swords. There were many small wounds on his body. Blood gushed out. He was like a sieve. It was not a big deal for a powerful warrior to bleed. It was not a big deal for him to bleed dry. He wouldn't die even if his internal organs were crushed. However, Guan Qinxiu's attack had severed many of this man's energy channels. His elixir was shaken as well. This had hurt his vitality. PFF, the man spat out some blood. He knew very well that he could not stay here any longer. Otherwise, he would die. He made up his mind and admitted defeat. Then he was teleported out. Bang! Almost at the same time, one of Guan Qinxiu's team was smashed away by the 3. Someone nearby saw that this man was injured. Instantly, several people attacked him like hail. That man knew he could not hold on any longer. He shouted, "I admit defeat." This man was teleported out by force. Otherwise, he could have been killed. Guan Qianqiu's heart sank. His team was down one man, and another was seriously injured. His combat ability was greatly reduced. This time, they were doomed. Even if I lose, I will not let you have it easy. Guan Qianqiu's eyes were red. Even if he cannot advance, he would drag some of the three teams down with him. He could not let them have it easy. On the other side, Group 2 and Group 10 were fighting against two teams. Clearly, both sides had the upper hand. But the two teams were smart. After gaining the upper hand, they learned from Lu Li and started to fake the fight. The three teams were sure to win. They didn't defeat their opponents right away because they were waiting for Guan Qianqiu and the other three teams to finish fighting. By then, they could clean up the mess and the three teams could advance easily. Even though Lu Li and the others were attacking, their minds are on the other teams. After a while, Hu Shiming suddenly sent a message to Lu Li and the others. Guan Qianqiu sent me a message. He asked us to help him as long as we can beat back the three teams. As long as we can defeat those three teams, they will cooperate with us. They don't care if they can advance or not. They just want to vent their anger. What do you think? Lu Li frowned. Wang Mingshui, Jun Tianyi, and Gu Shanqiu's eyes lit up. If Guan Qianqiu could help them, then their team could advance for sure. Even though one of Guan Qianqiu's team had been eliminated and one was seriously injured, Guan Qianqiu alone could fight against three average warriors at the peak of the fifth tribulation. This was a good opportunity. As long as they could help Guan Qianqiu vent his anger, then Guan Qianqiu could definitely help them advance. Anyone would be tempted by such a good thing. Lu Li wasn't tempted. Instead, he sensed something was hidden. He believed that there must be many people here talking to each other. They were all working together and plotting against others. Guan Qianqiu was the most popular person. Would he be willing to be someone else's dowry? Okay, I agree. Me too. I have no objections. Chapter 2675. It was a piece of cake to defeat this team. They were not on the same level. Hu Shiming, Heaven of Lords, Yi and Wang Mingshui had become familiar with each other after fighting for such a long time. Lu Li and Gu Shanqiu didn't even have to do anything. The three of them could defeat the four easily. Hu Shiming knew a strong defensive skill. He had a layer of black scales over his body, which was quite strong. He also had a sovereign weapon halberd. Naturally, he was quite powerful. Wang Mingshui's footwork was strange. She was like a ghost. Lu Li could not tell where she was going to attack from. Also, after one attack, she would retreat regardless of whether it was successful or not. The next breath, she would come at you from another angle, catching you off guard. Heaven of Lord's soul attack was strong. At the very least, it could interfere with the opponent's movements and slow down the opponent's reaction time. One could imagine the outcome of a slow reaction when fighting against powerful warriors like Hu Shiming and Wang Mingshui. The time for 5 breaths. In the time for merely 5 breaths, Lu Li didn't even have to do anything. The 4 of them were finished. 3 were badly injured, and the last one admitted defeat. If he didn't, he would be badly injured as well. Since there was no hope, they might as well make it quick so that they could save some face. Hu Shiming and the others had held back. Otherwise, given their abilities, the 4 of them wouldn't even have the strength to get up. They would be carried away if they went out. After the 4 were defeated, the warriors nearby became nervous. Lu Li's team was free now. They wouldn't stay still and would attack the other teams. At the moment, everyone else was fighting. If Lu Li and his team attacked a group, that group would be doomed. Hu Shiming and the others stopped. The 3 of them took 2 pellets and rested for a few breaths. Guys, I think we should be more cautious. Something is not right, Lu Li said after some thoughts. However, Hu Shiming, Wang Mingshui and Heaven of Lords paid no attention to him. Hu Shiming looked at Guan Qianqiu and shouted, "Attack!" Everyone nearby seemed to be relieved. Hu Shiming and Lu Li were going to take advantage of the situation. Were they going to kill Guan Qianqiu and the others? Hu Shiming, Wang Mingshui and Heaven of Lords rushed over. Gu Shanqiu followed them. Even though Lu Li felt something was off, what else could he do in this situation? Now, the whole team was bound together. If the four of them were defeated, then Lu Li wouldn't stand chance. Even though Lu Li felt something was off, he still rushed forward. Guan Xinqiu's group was surrounded by 3 groups, and one of them had already been eliminated. It was easy to understand why they were asking for help, and there was nothing wrong with it. However, Lu Li instinctively felt that something was wrong, but he couldn't tell what it was. This was an instinct that he had developed from years of living on the line between life and death. Hu Shiming's group of 3 was clearly going to attack Guan Xinqiu's group. The 3 teams were immediately overjoyed. With such powerful reinforcements, wouldn't Guan Xinqiu's group be immediately defeated? Boom! But when Hu Shiming got close, he sent one of the 3 groups flying with a single blow. Wang Ningxue also launched a sneak attack on one of them, piercing a hole through his chest. Lord Sky Leaf's soul attack sent one of them into a frenzy and sent him flying. As soon as he attacked, he instantly injured 3 people. The members of the other 3 groups were all dumbfounded. How could Guan Xinqiu and the others miss such an opportunity? They all released powerful attacks and injured 3 more people. There were 15 people in the 3 groups. Before, there were only 11 left. This time, 6 of them were severely injured, leaving only 5. There was no way to continue this fight. That being said, the remaining 5 people didn't admit defeat. They attacked Lu Li and the others with bloodshot eyes. They were ready to drag some people down with them, even if they had to lose. Hu Shiming and the others didn't mind. There were only 5 of them, including Guan Xinqiu and the others. There were 9 of them, and there were many powerful ones. These people were like grasshoppers tied up. They couldn't jump around much longer. Whoosh! However, right at that moment, people from the 2nd group and the 10th group rushed over at the same time. They all gave up on their current opponents and rushed toward Guan Xinqiu and the others. No, retreat. Even though people from the 2nd group and the 10th group were staring at Guan Xinqiu and the others, Lu Li could feel the hidden killing intent in them. The killing intent was directed at Guan Xinqiu and the others. Whoosh! Lu Li retreated at once. At the same time, he sent a message to the other 4. Retreat. We have fallen into Guan Xinqiu's trap. They are ganging up on us. Hu Shiming was stunned. Wang Ningxue, Jun Tianai, and Gu Shanxiu reacted quickly and retreated at once. Either way, it was easy for problems to arise when 2 groups were charging at each other. It was always better to retreat first. Boom! Hu Shi wanted to retreat, but it was already too late. 5 powerful attacks landed on his body, and the black scales on his body exploded layer by layer. His body was blasted into a bloody mess, and one of his legs was directly chopped off. He was severely injured in an instant. Guan Xinqiu, Hu Shiming would be an idiot if he still didn't understand. He shouted in rage. We are here to help you, and you stab us in the back. I don't have a choice, brother Hu. Guan Xinqiu said helplessly. Only 3 groups can advance. Apart from our group, your group is the strongest. If we can't defeat you, our group will have no hope. I must join the Celestial Emperor's sect. I am sorry. Brother Hu, just admit defeat. I will pay you a visit and apologize. I will pay you back. Even though Hu Shiming was badly injured, he roared and flew up. The sovereign weapon in his hand glowed. Clearly, he was going to use his killing move. He wanted to drag Guan Xinqiu down with him. Swish, swish, swish. Guan Xinqiu and company were already prepared. Hu Shiming was badly injured and naturally slowed down. Before he could release his attack, a few more attacks came. Hu Shiming was once again sent flying thousands of feet. He landed heavily on the ground and fainted. Buzz, those who fainted would be automatically eliminated and teleported out. After all, the Celestial Emperor sect was afraid that too many people would die. Swish, swish, swish. Of the 3 groups that had joined forces, only 5 were left. These 5 quickly retreated. The 2 groups that had been attacked by the 2nd and 10th groups also quickly retreated and gathered together. They did not even bother to send voice transmissions and gathered together. The 2nd, 4th, and 10th groups had joined forces. It was obvious that they wanted to advance. If the other groups did not join forces, They could only wait to be eliminated one by one. This is troublesome. Wang Ningxue, Jun Tianai, and Gu Shanqiu's expressions were very ugly. The battle royale had now become a battle between three kingdoms. They had become the weakest group. The other two groups now had more than 10 people each. Guan Xinxiu and company did not look at the 10-odd people gathered together. Instead, they stared at Wang Ningxue and company. Clearly, they had decided that as long as Wang Ningxue and company were defeated, the remaining 10-odd people would not be a concern. After they were eliminated, the other 10-odd people could be defeated. Then, the three groups would be able to advance. Damn it! Lu Li's face was clouded as well. The second, fourth, and 10th groups must have communicated with each other secretly. Or, Guan Xinxiu had promised them great benefits. Now that Hu Shimeng had been eliminated, Guan Xinxiu and company's abilities were greatly reduced. The other 10-odd people gathered clearly did not trust Guan Xinxiu and company. It was unlikely that they would join forces to deal with the second, fourth, and 10th groups. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.